And he's like, I have it. Yeah. I'm just going to use it for the kids.
Good, I hope he did. He was acting, he was like acting like he was so cool. I was like,
Part that's
come
kind
on,
of weird.
come
It's
on,
kind
be
of
cool
like, okay,
yourself.
now you're saying if you don't
Oh,
give
I
it to
don't
them.
know. He was
But
just
you
being sassy.
Exactly.
Yes, I
even
thought
if
it was so
it's what
funny.
was it, $1,000?
Yeah.
Okay, but still, why would
Did he really?
Flights and their food.
I
I thought it was
really
a joke.
I still don't understand how the last notification I got 2
Yeah,
days
I
ago
saw.
from
I
her
heard about that
was,
actually.
I'm going
That's
to
really
retire.
interesting.
So like, she doesn't believe me.
Yeah. I did bring this actually for you. That's so funny. That is. I love that. I almost saved the video. I was like, good.
Madeline. Madeline Marshall. Um, your mom's going to text you that photo.
I'd like to call to order the Saline Area Schools Board of Education meeting of January 28th. Thank you, Zach. Standing as you are able, please, we would recite the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Brad Gerby.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We have two extraordinary recognitions this evening, and I'm going to let Superintendent Lodge lead off.
Okay, we are welcome, everyone. We are starting tonight with our honoring teacher extraordinaire, Leanne Ream.
I thought she was coach extraordinary.
Well, she's that too. We're going to ask Leanne to come up in a minute and talk a little bit about the process of the award she just received. But first, I'm going to say a few words, and then President McVeigh is as well. So I've been working with Leanne for a long time as superintendent, but also when I was assistant superintendent of instruction. And she's just one of the most unique, special, and motivating educators I've ever met. And I've been in education now 27 years. Well, 27 years here, 31 years in total. And the way she's innovative is like no teacher I've ever seen. She spends an incredible amount of time preparing lessons, and she does it in a way to differentiate for all her students. She somehow knows all her students and what they can and can't do. And then she develops these plans to make sure it differentiates for all of them, which is really special. And it's super time consuming. As a former teacher, I know that lesson planning was always very, very complex because you're trying to look at the needs of all these students. And not only that, she's a middle school science teacher, so she has 4 different groups. There's not just one group. She's got potentially 120 students coming in at all times, and it's really incredible. And she also makes learning fun. And she does it in a way, if you walk in her room, you will see hands-on experiments going all the time. And sometimes it looks like organized chaos, but it's organized learning, and the kids love it. It's outstanding. And on top of all this, she's a beloved basketball coach. I mean, you look at the girls on her team, and she puts every ounce of energy into making them better athletes, better students, and just really pours in every ounce of energy that she has. And so I'm really proud of Leanne and this latest Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. She's clearly one of the best teachers in the United States, and now she has this recognition to show us all that. Something I already knew, but I'm glad that the world can know that as well. And now I want to turn it over to President McVeigh.
Thank you very much. So let me talk about the process just a little bit. I will not make you blush much. So in 2022, I was in Houston for the National Science Teachers Association, and in the vendor hall, with pop-up planetariums and little electron microscopes at $15,000, no problem, right, Dr. Lodge? There was this picture of the White House and these letters, P-A-E-M-S-T. Do the cool kids call it something? Pamst. Well, I don't call it that. I'd never heard of it before. It's the Presidential Award for Extraordinary Math and Science Teachers or Teaching. I'm sure you know exactly what it stands for. When I came back, I said, for sure, Kara Davis, for sure we can find somebody that's outstanding in our school district. And we very, very quickly narrowed down on Leanne. I had worked with Leanne, and as I said at the last board meeting, and Kara and Mrs. Odom on a group. We had 150 7th graders, which I still wake up in my sleep in a start and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't lose any in the forest. And we took them down to the Leslie Niehammer Science Preserve, and they worked on an incredible project that combined science and social studies and English language literature and technology. The kids were taking pictures of mushrooms. They were seeing things that unless you slowed down and stopped, you'd never see. And Leanne brought all that out in the kids. Later, they worked on creating small signs that would then be put around the preserve. The money came from the League of Women Voters, the Women in Philanthropy at Eastern Michigan University. I forget, it was $5,000, something like that, to build these signs. And they're still there. And for another year or two, you made them, which was fantastic. So from there, it was entirely up to Leanne and the rigorous process that you know far better than the rest of us. So if you could tell us about the process, that would be fantastic.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so I guess the first charge is to let everyone know what the process was like. So after the nomination, which I was very humbled to receive, I started the process of recording lessons. So my husband is a professional cameraman, so he came and recorded 3 different lessons of mine. And then I had to start the rigorous process of writing my application. So within the application, I had to explain how the 5 dimensions of excellent science teaching were shown through my lessons. So I ended up typing, I was trying to look back, it's between 30 and 40 pages type was the original application itself, in which I had to analyze every decision I made, every word I made, why I chose the lesson, why I made each choice, and prove that I had strong pedagogy and just content knowledge. So I was hooked up with a mentor from Michigan who had won it in the past, who gave me feedback. We went through a revision process. Lots of meetings along the way with PAMST. Then when I submitted my application, I received knowledge that I was a state finalist. So at that point, that was like a year had gone by, realized I was a state finalist, and then I had to add an addendum. So then I had to type another 10 pages, which was just answering the questions that were asked after my initial application that they thought that the national reviewers would want to see. So added on that, sent that forward, and then 2 years later, I just found out, January 13th or something like that, that I was chosen. And the biggest thing I want to say about this is the website says something like, this is the nation's highest honor for a science teacher, that a science teacher could receive. And I can tell you that in no way, shape, or form do I teach for awards or for honors. What I can tell you has been the most rewarding is getting to do something I love in this district with the amazing students, and many of whom are in the audience. I'm so excited to see all of the students that are here that I happen to have taught, and the administrators that have been so supportive, and the community and family members that have been so supportive all the way through. I feel so fortunate to work in a district. Steve mentioned innovation. I've got to work in a district that allowed me to do my thing and push myself in ways that were not traditional, to push my ways to myself to reach all students. And I think in many districts, I might have been shut down with the chances that I took in my pedagogy. But here, I was lifted and encouraged and say, hey, go for it. And so I'm really, really grateful to teach in Saline area schools with the students that are here, with the parents that have supported them and me, the administration, and all of my colleagues that continue to push me. So it's really a word for Saline, because this doesn't happen if all those other things don't come to place. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. One of my former awesome students.
Yeah.
We would like to do a little photograph. You know the way.
Picture time. Right over there.
Although Zach always said he was going to come take over my class.
Yeah.
So he's coming for my job.
Right.
For our special guests in the audience, we do this every week. We always have like nationally recognized teachers. No, this is absolutely exceptional. Thanks, Leanne, for coming, and Leanne's family. We have another recognition. Oh, actually, do we?
We do.
Oh, it's your. Dr. Lodge has something to say.
Okay. Yes, this is school board recognition. So the key to a brighter future for our kids is a strong public education. And every day, Saline Area School students count on us to help prepare them for a successful future. Whether they understand it or not, they count on adults in Saline and across the state, ensuring they have access to resources to help them learn, keep our buildings safe, and have excellent teachers to guide them. It takes an unwavering commitment to our community to make this all possible. You, our Board of Education, are all true superheroes. You contribute to the success of our students with your extraordinary dedication to the school district. You all approach volunteer work like it's a full-time job. Your job's to establish a vision for the educational program, design a structure to achieve this vision, ensure schools are accountable to the community, and strongly advocate for continuous improvement in student learning. The job of a school board member is tough. The hours are long, and thanks are sometimes few and far between. Too often, people are quick to criticize school board members without really understanding the complex nature of their decisions. We have to remember to take the time to thank all of you for your untiring efforts. The month of January marks the observance of School Board Recognition Month, and it's an opportunity to show our year-round appreciation to our Board of Education and begin to better understand how local trustees work together to prepare today's students to be tomorrow's leaders. We encourage you to join with others throughout our community to thank our board members. So specifically, I want to thank Tim Austin, Darcy Berwick, Brad Gerby, Lauren Gold, Michael McVeigh, Jennifer Stebbin, and Jason Tizidis for your leadership on the Saline Area Schools Board of Education.
Thank you.
And I will add, we had a chance for Betty coordinated a gift for the Board of Education members from getting things from the Hive from the school store, which is great. So we hope you will wear those proudly.
Thank you very much, Betty. I'm never taking my hat off.
Maybe just the tag.
Oh, the tag.
Well, no, kids leave those on.
The cool kids leave the tags on. I am not a cool kid. Thank you so much, Steve. It's always, whatever. Thank you. We have one public comment this evening, and she's going to rush to the podium right now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Jasper. I'm the proud principal of Saline Middle School, but I'm here representing SASA. It is Board of Education Recognition Month, and so on behalf of SASA, we want to say thank you for all of the work that you do to support the students of our district and to support all of the staff as well. We greatly appreciate you. We know that in your work as board members, you spend a lot of time mulling over technical reading, policy, legalese, and so we wanted to get you something that maybe would be a little bit more fun or lighter reading, so a little gift card to Fine Print Bookstore and a very Emily Sickler bookmark to go with it.
I have a to-be-read list of about 150 books, so maybe they've got my book there. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Why we all do. Speak on behalf of the board. Thank you. We are at the point of approving the agenda or revising it. Items can be added or deleted, and the order changed at the request of an individual board member or the superintendent. The agenda has to be approved before proceeding further. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion, Gerby.
Gerby.
Second.
Austin, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's 7-0. Thank you very much. Student showcase tonight, I'll let you introduce student representatives. I'll let you kick this off. unless you need me to.
We're happy to have for our student showcase today Lizzie White, Miss Saline of 2024, Madeline Marshall, first runner-up, Juliana Marini, second runner-up, and their advisor, Kimberly Bryant.
Hello, thank you all for having me. As he said, I'm Lizzie White. I'm so honored to be the 76th Miss Saline and Miss Saline 2024-2025. So I kind of defined what it means to be Miss Saline and what the Miss Saline pageant is in my own words, and I define this as an incredible opportunity for a esteemed young woman to compete for a scholarship. Miss Saline is an exciting year-long commitment to make a difference and serve as an ambassador in the Saline community. And what this means to me is basically being Miss Saline, being honored with this title, it means that I have to embody the values and traditions and pride of Saline. And that's so meaningful to me, and I'm so grateful to have been given that opportunity. And it was a blast competing alongside so many other talented girls who deserved this just as much as me. So I'm so honored that they chose me. And the opportunity to be a leader and role model in a community that I've lived in for my entire life is amazing, and I've had such a great time so far giving back, and I will continue to do so. Furthering my impact on Saline has been great. We've participated in so many different things, and as I've said, I'm so grateful for that. And just being a part of this legacy is great. I have a trophy sitting in my room, and the trophy's cool, but what's even cooler is that there's 75 names listed before mine. This has been a thing for so long, and it's been honoring so many amazing women before me, and it's just so amazing to be able to be listed by these women who are so great. And a common misconception about Miss Saline is that it's a beauty pageant. You know, you put on a gown, do a dance, and whoever does it best wins. But that's not it at all. It's not judged on any of those things. It's judged on community involvement, leadership roles, the qualities you deem to be the most important, and who you are as a person. So to be chosen for something like that is an amazing opportunity. So I want to get into talking about kind of the people who won awards for this year, because it wasn't just me. So as I said, I'm the 76th Miss Saline, but my first runner-up, Madeline Marshall, is in the crowd tonight, and congratulations, Madeline. My second runner-up, Juliana Marini, she can't be here tonight, but she also did absolutely amazing. She's a senior this year, and I'm so excited to see what she does next year in college. And alongside the three main awards, the Miss Saline pageant also distributes 4 others. The academic award, which was given to Carly Puffpath for maintaining a 4.0 GPA, so congratulations, Carly. The Spirit of Miss Saline goes to whoever embodies the qualities of Saline the best, and I was fortunately awarded that as well, and I'm grateful for that. And Madeline Marshall also won the Community Service and the Miss Congeniality Award, which I would like to say it's not normal to walk away with 3 awards. So congratulations, Madeline, you did amazing. And so those are all important to know, everyone on that screen, as well as all the other contestants who, even though they didn't walk away with any scholarship money, they did an amazing job on stage, and some of them are returning next year, so I'm so excited for them. Before I get into talking about what we've done so far and everything about that, I just want to thank some people who've made it possible, because it's not possible at all without the community support and all the charity that everyone in this community has been so kind with giving. So all the local community businesses and schools have been so supportive, but there are just a few ones that have just really gone over the edge. So I really want to thank Catherine Kelly Orthodontics, Renew Salon and Spa, Heidi McClellan Photography, Stillwater's Counseling, the entire Coy family, Brood Awakenings, and Kim Bryant, who's here tonight and who's made everything possible. So thank you, Kim. Alongside the notable sponsors, the judges are also very supportive, and I love them all, and they also make this opportunity possible. So Amanda Coy and Brittany Bryant were 2 previous Miss Salines, who I'm, again, so honored to share the legacy of. Jeffrey McLaughlin, Mayor Marl, and Julie Picknell also were judges who, again, helped make everything possible. So thank you to everyone who's been so supportive and giving me this opportunity. Now I want to talk about what we've done so far, because a lot of people are kind of unaware of all the things that we're a part of beyond the pageant. So there's been several things, but I just wanted to know a few of them, which myself and my court found to be really fun, and these are our most enjoyable ones. So we were invited and attended the elementary school open houses, and that was a blast to see all the kids so happy, have no idea what's coming in high school at the open houses. It's great to see all their smiles, and we had a blast there. We were also honored to be able to present the awards at the Saline People's Choice Awards. That was amazing because a lot of the businesses that I was presenting awards to helped contribute to the pageant and my scholarship, so that was super fun. We competed in the annual Saline Scarecrow competition and won it, so we're pretty proud of that. Our scarecrows were Wicked themed. We had Elphaba and Glinda, so that was super fun to make. I also attended Oktoberfest. Juliana, Madeline, and I were a part of both parades, the homecoming and the holiday one. We also participated in the tree lighting, and that was super fun. We were at the annual trunk or treat, and I loved seeing all the young kids in their costumes. That was a blast. And I could not personally attend this one, but Madeline and Juliana were at the Wicked premiere for Imagine, and they told me that it was very fun, so I'll take their word for it. Going off of that, we're currently running and have ran 2 fundraisers so far, and these are kind of our biggest accomplishments and what we're most proud of. So Toys for Tots, I actually have a slide about this. Thank you. So Toys for Tots is a national nonprofit organization ran by the Marine Corps Reserve, and the Miss Saline organization runs the Saline chapter, and we're super grateful for that, and it's amazing to see all the toys that get raised. And this year we're so happy to say that we collected 1,225 toys to make kids smile this holiday season, and that is absolutely amazing. So thank you to every business and school that housed a Toys for Tots box, and thank you to everyone who donated a toy. That was absolutely great, and we're super proud of it. Next is the Valentine's Day fundraiser, which we're currently in the middle of. So I'll take a minute to inform you all of this since it's currently going on and you can participate. So it's a fundraiser we're running in honor of Valentine's Day, and all proceeds, 100% of them, go to Ellie's Place, which, if you're unfamiliar with Ellie's Place, it's a local grieving center for teens and children, and it's a nonprofit organization. I've volunteered there before, and it's amazing what they do there, so I'm super happy to be able to be given this platform to give back to such an amazing organization. So we started this last Saturday, but it's continuing this Saturday, February 1st, as well as next Saturday, February 8th, at Brood Awakenings from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So thank you, Kim Castor of Brood Awakenings, for having us. Basically, what we're doing is we're just selling Valentine's Day tic-tac-toe and Valentine's Day heart charms, just little trinkets. They're $1 each, and we're also just a location for you to more easily donate to them, and we've been pretty successful so far this past Saturday, and I'm super excited to see everything else we raise in the coming 2 Saturdays. So thank you so much for having me. If you want to continue looking at our journey for the rest of the year, myself, along with Madeline and Juliana, follow our Facebook it's Miss Saline Scholarship Pageant, and our Instagram is Miss Saline Scholarship. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Lizzie. Before you sit down, the board may have a question or two, and maybe even the students. Jason.
How many contestants participate?
This year, I believe we had 9. It might have been 8 though, 8 or 9, but it's usually around 7 to 10 every year.
I think that I'd love to see Madeline and Kim come up as well. They are a big part of Miss Saline. I've been a small part in the background, but Kim has really set up the structure for these past few years and done an incredible job. And she's already working on the application process for next year. And every year sort of evaluates where our Saline students are at and what we're looking for in our students, and adapts applications a little bit as we go. But the applications that the contestants fill out is lengthy. Academics are a part of that, and so all of the applicants really are putting their best foot forward, and they get interviewed. It's a really terrific overall experience for our students in high school, heading out to job interviews and filling out applications for schools. They've done a really wonderful job these past few years. I'm very impressed. I'd love to see you guys come on up and just say hi.
Hi, I'm Madeline Marshall, Miss Saline First Runner-Up 2024. Thank you so much for having us here tonight.
I'm Kim Bryant, and I'm the co-director with Molly Coy, who could not be here tonight. I am so incredibly proud of Lizzie and Madeline and Juliana. They have really worked well together this year and doing so much in the community, and I'm just grateful to be able to work with amazing students. Every day I receive calls. This past week I've talked with a couple of the girls that went out that maybe weren't on the list that Lizzie shared, but they reached out to me to ask me some questions about other things. So I appreciate that we are the Miss Saline family, and that's something that we're really promoting this year. Mary Marshall, Madeline's mother, was able to invite her second graders to walk along with us in the parade, and we got them little tiaras from Party City, so now we're gonna have to probably get them online next year, but that's okay. But they loved it, and they passed out the candy, and they said, can we please do this next year? One little girl slept in her crown and it broke, so Mrs. Marshall went and got her a new one the next day. But these, we're building the family. And that is really important to me when we took this over 5 years ago after my daughter was crowned and the person retired. And I really wanted to make it about family. And I love where this is going. And we have great ideas for next year too. And the application is now live. So we're excited to start seeing some applications once we are finished with our fundraiser and Lizzie is back from her Costa Rica trip. She's going to put an announcement out to let people know that it's open until June 1st. But so we'll see next year's cohort. But we're really excited, and we'll do March Reading Month in March, and hopefully at the elementary schools, the girls will be there as well and participate in a few more things that are happening. So thank you so much for the opportunity. We really love it. Thank you, Darcy, for being an auditor and helping in the background. That's been really wonderful, too. Janet Dillon also is an auditor for us. Lori Larson's been an auditor in the past. Shannon Casillo, who's a former Miss Saline 2004, was one this year. So we really appreciate all that extra help. Thank you so much.
Brad, I think you wanted to say something. I wanted to just add something too. Sorry.
Yeah, hold on, because I always have a question of the showcase. So it's pretty common. But first of all, I want to speak to a couple of things with you, though, specifically. You are incredibly articulate. You are incredibly humble. So well done on that front. I am Facebook friends with Mary, Madeline's mom, and so I see all the things that you guys are doing in the community, and I think you represent Saline really positively and in a great way. And thank you for being an ambassador for us, right? You make Saline, where we live, look good. So thank you for that, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, as a board, you're in front of us, right? So this is your moment, Lizzie. Is there anything we can do to support you or Miss? I heard about March is Reading Month, but is there anything else we can do?
I would just say I would really love it if I feel like a lot of people they are so taken aback by the pageant stereotype that they're scared away from it. And I really want to grow the Miss Saline family, as Kim said. And I would love for there to be more contestants every single year, because I think it's an amazing opportunity for, even if you don't win, I am literally promoting it to everyone at my school, because I think even if you don't win, it's still an amazing opportunity for you to practice so many skills that are going to be important for when you're older. Public speaking, interviewing, the whole process is amazing, and I made friends during it too. and strengthened friendships that were already existing. And the whole process was really fun. So the school board, like, all I can think of from you is just like you already do support so much, but just continuing to support and promote it, because I want to grow that family. And I just think it's an incredible opportunity that I want so many women to be a part of, because so many women already have been, and I just want to keep growing that.
Oopsie. Lizzie, you have such a graceful way about you, and I know how proud your mom was of you, and I just wanted to say congratulations. Madeline, I was really glad to see you win the community award. I didn't know that, and I know that you have a really bright future in so many ways. And Kim, I'm really glad that this was kind of reborn, right? Because it was on a little bit of a hiatus, and look at kind of the joy and positivity that has been brought back into the community through all the examples of volunteerism to support these girls, but also the future generations of the family. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Lizzie. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. We have one quick bit of business before we get on to the, I'm sorry?
Lauren wants a photo.
You want to do a photo? No, not of the student presentations, but we're happy to do one.
I think it'd be a fun one.
The board has decided they would like to do a photo, so.
Let's do a photo.
I just didn't want one, but now I want one.
Let's just put it this way, if they don't let us have one, I'm gonna motion and make it.
And you can do that. Good.
We have a quick bit of business, board business, before we get into the next part. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the closed session minutes of January 14th for the purpose of complaints and disciplinary action and collective bargaining. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Stebbin.
Stebbin,
Support Tizities.
thank you. Now, go ahead. Who's in AP government tonight? Yeah, okay. Nice to have you here. It must be the end of semester. So what's going on at this point is our board secretary is handing out the minutes from the closed session. The closed session is unique because everybody's ushered out and we keep our minutes quiet. We're the only ones who can see the minutes. So that's why we're going to quietly read them, review them, vote on them, and they're not even part of the packet. So that's what's going on right now. You can do a whole write-up about it. President McVeigh said, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. And good luck in this semester. I could do that while we're waiting. We can only enter into closed session for one of 8 separate reasons, including attorney-client privilege, negotiations of contracts, complaints, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of stuff. Emergency operations, things like that. Thank you, Brad. They'd also, He's talking about OMA, which is the Open Meetings Act, which we all have to follow. We are in an open meeting right now.
Yeah, I heard you like obey.
And when we go into closed session, we kick you out, Zach.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Not tonight. Where does Steve Lutz go?
He doesn't need to be here for the next part, but thanks for asking.
Yep.
And thank you for your patience. We were right on schedule until we went for a photo op. Yep. What?
I'm sorry, these meetings are supposed to be scheduled. When do they ever end on time?
Do you know what drags them? It's the public comment sometimes goes on a bit, but we do try to keep to a tight order. I do.
I'm sure.
If you can talk about it without sharing too much.
Right.
If you, here, I'd like to suggest this. If there are a lot of comments or changes, or once we could always take it. We could always table it until next meeting, and you can send notes to Darcy. Would that work?
I might as well just say it on mic because we're supposed to. I think there was a discussion about the removal of the last sentence on the second item. Review of complaint, possibly removing the last sentence.
The one that says portions, or at this point?
No, the next.
The next.
The
The last
review.
one, that review, yes.
Okay.
And then the other one.
I move to strike that sentence as it's unclear.
All right, then what we're voting on now is the approval of the amended minutes.
I'll restate the motion for recommended motion to approve the revised closed session minutes of January 14th, 2025 for the purpose of complaints and disciplinary action under 8A and collective bargaining 8C.
Do we have a second?
Support Gold.
Support Gold. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Great, there we go. Thank you very much. And please make sure your minutes are back in our secretary's hands. We're into the next item now, a report from the Ad Hoc Committee on the Superintendent Search Firms. As you all are aware, our superintendent is hitting the retirement button at the end of June, and Snow Day Steve will be replaced by somebody else. And we, rather than do that work ourselves, we are interviewing 3 distinguished search firms this evening, and we're going to let them make a presentation to us. We've given them 20 minutes, including time for questions. They have prepared presentations. And so Darcy is our timekeeper, because she's secretary. Or someone can keep time. We'll just keep an eye on the clock. It's roughly 20 minutes, and we would like you to, your schedule time for questions as well. Great. Well, I'd like you to come up first. We have Ray and Associates are the first off, and they'll be followed by MLI, followed by Michigan Association of School Boards. There is a clicker, the button's on, and if you run into technical issues, look at Ben, and he'll help you out.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good evening, board members. Before I begin the presentation, first, I want to extend my appreciation to all the board members for your time, your commitment, your dedication to the students, the staff, the parents, the community of Saline area schools. Commend you for your commitment as school board members. And then I want to tell you what an uplifting and wonderfully positive start to your board meeting. So it was wonderful to listen to all of the recognitions and accomplishments. Greatly appreciate that. So with tonight's presentation, I'm Sheila Alice. I am an associate with Ray and Associates, and this is my colleague, Kathy Schoenfelder, and we appreciate the opportunity to share with you this evening the superintendent search process that we use in Ray and Associates to help guide you, support you, and assist you in your search for your next superintendent, which is the most important decision that you as school board members make. As I said, my name is Sheila Alice. I am one of a 3-member team who, if you choose our search firm, will be here to support, guide, and assist you. I live in Northville, Michigan. I am your Michigan connection. I bring to the work that I do in this search firm 47 years in public education, 21 years in Plymouth Canton Schools as a teacher, curriculum coordinator, curriculum director, 21 years in Livonia Public Schools as the elementary principal, director of elementary programs, director of academic services, chief academic officer, and then I went to the Michigan Department of Education. I got a call from the state superintendent inviting me to be his chief deputy superintendent. I held that position until the very unfortunate and untimely passing of Superintendent Whiston. Then I became the interim state superintendent, and I served in that position for almost a year and a half until the state board hired a permanent superintendent. Then I went back to my role as chief deputy superintendent, helped the new state superintendent transition into his role. I also was an adjunct professor, literacy, graduate and undergraduate level, and I've served on numerous state and national education and civic organization board of directors. I retired 3.5 years ago, went to work for Ray & Associates 2.5 years, and love semi-retirement. And with that, I'll let Kathy introduce herself.
Thanks, Sheila. I'm Kathy Schoenfelder. I am from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in the corporate office of Ray & Associates. We have big shoes to fill tonight, following all of the awards and following Sheila. My background is not in the education field, but I served for 30 years as a legal assistant, so I come from the law standpoint of things. And Dr. David Faltis is our managing director. He's got Michigan ties through his wife's family. So he will be assisting us if needed, but Sheila and I would be the boots on the ground team for you. Next slide, thank you. So these are some highlights of obviously your district, and you know them very well. I like to start off the photos with the little kids, as the goal is to work up to the graduation scene at the end. So that always makes me smile when I look through the Facebook photos to see the kids and how they start off and then how they end. Next slide. Thank you.
Kathy, if you could make sure you're speaking to the mic. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Because we stream.
Oh, okay. Then I will look at this page. Thank you. So who we are, we've been in business since 1975. So over 45 years, this is what we have done, our superintendent searches and cabinet level searches. That's all that we do. We have extensive experience nationwide, and we try to stay on the cutting edge of the search process. We have associates nationwide and a diverse field of associates as well, with different backgrounds and ethnicities and education roles, as Sheila is one of those. Go ahead. We do have a diversity statement, for whatever that means now. But our diversity is more of an inclusive process for diversity, regardless of whether it's background or ethnicities or education roles that a person has had in the field. So our goal is to bring a diverse field of candidates, whether that is, as I said, ethnicities, role, logistics, geographic areas. We take pride in bringing boards candidates that they don't know about from areas that they don't think about. With COVID, we learned a lot of things, and people moved to different regions for different reasons because of that. So we take pride in that and having a national showing. Okay.
So this is your search. And so we are going to use your input in this search. And if you choose us, we're going to use our expertise to guide, support, and assist you in the search. One of the ways we're going to use your input is we're going to help you to create a search timeline. That search timeline will meet your expectations, your specifications, and it will be tied directly to your district calendar. We're going to gather input from board members on the qualities that you want to see in your next superintendent. We're going to engage in one-on-one interviews with each board member. We're going to ask each board member the same series of questions about your district, about your community, and what you'd like to see in your next superintendent. And we're going to assist you in creating a compensation package that is both attractive and competitive. We are going to ask you to create a profile of your next superintendent. And to do that, we're going to use the results of the one-on-one interviews that we had with you. We are also going to engage in stakeholder group meetings. So we're going to come into your district and meet with different stakeholder groups that you deem it's appropriate for us to meet with, such as teachers, administrators, parents, community members. The most exciting ones are when we meet with students. We're going to ask a series of questions, the same questions to all the stakeholder groups about the district, about the community, and about what they would like to see in the next superintendent. We offer these both in person and virtually. We also then are going to have available on your website an online survey. And the online survey consists of what are called 31 desirable qualities of superintendents. And that survey will be available to your entire community. They will have an opportunity to review the qualities, and each group gets to choose 10 each individual gets to choose 10 qualities. We compile that information, and by the way, that survey is available in English and in any other language that you tell us that your community speaks. So we want to make sure that everyone in the community has the opportunity to complete the survey. We then bring to you the results of the one-on-one survey. We bring to you the results of the stakeholder meetings. We bring to you the results of the online survey. We help you analyze those results, and then we help you to create what's called a candidate's profile. That is usually 10 to 12 characteristics that you deem it is essential for the next superintendent to possess. We use that candidate's profile for recruitment purposes. We use it for vetting and screening candidates. We use it for candidate evaluation, and we use it then for the finalist review. So now we move on to the recruitment. Using your newly created candidate profile, we are going to then aggressively recruit and advertise to bring to you the very best candidate. We start by informing our associates of the position. We ask for their recommendations, and then we make personal contacts with those recommendations. We consult our extensive database that Kathy mentioned that we have, and we look for a match between the candidates that are in our database and what you deem is important for the next superintendent, those qualities to possess. We contact organizations at the state, regional, and national levels, and we tell them we have a position available. We also seek potential candidates at state and national conventions, and then we advertise in local, regional, and national venues. These are the venues that are highly populated by education leaders, such as AASA and NASB, and any other media venues that you deem it's appropriate for us to advertise in. We also post an ad for 30 days in Ed Week at no cost to you. Then once we have the posting available and the posting closes, then our team moves into a very strenuous and exhaustive vetting and screening process. We do 3 levels of vetting. The first level is the associates read every single application package. The application, the resume, the cover letter, the letter of intent, all letters by the references, and we do a match between the candidates and the qualities that you deemed in the candidate's profile. Then those candidates that meet the qualifications, we move them on to the second level of vetting, and in that level, we do a comprehensive check of their work history. We call references that they've listed, and sometimes we call references that they didn't list because we got a tip from someone that says you might want to talk to this person. And we search their footprint in social media. We look at Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. And then for the very few candidates, we do an even deeper dive. We do the third level, and that is we conduct a dive looking for any criminal activity, any sex offender identification, any motor vehicle violations, as well as others, and we also verify their professional degrees. That third level of vetting is done with a third-party professional organization at no cost to you. After we complete the vetting process, we bring to you what we believe is the top slate of the very best candidates for Saline area schools after our very exhaustive vetting, because we want to make sure any candidate that we bring to you, there aren't any surprises.
So as Sheila said, we will bring these candidates to you. One thing that they also do is we ask them to do a one-way video through SparkHire. So that's part of our process for the candidates that we screen and bring to you. They have 90 seconds to answer. There's 4 questions, 90 seconds each that they have to answer. So you get to see their demeanor, how quickly they think, how comfortable they are or aren't in completing the video. So you see that as well. So when we bring these candidates to you, you will receive access to every application that came in. You will receive individual links for the candidates that we screened, as well as their video. And we will ask them a series of questions in the screening. What's the status of their contract? Have they ever been fired, resigned, let go? Have they applied anywhere else? And then we'll also put together 3 district-specific questions that we get from stakeholder meeting themes. So when we bring these candidates to you, you will see all of that information, and then we will talk to you about what the references said, what we found on the internet, if anything, and we will answer your questions about those candidates. At that meeting, we will work through our scoring matrix to help you determine the decision as to who to move forward for first round interviews. We provide you with some sample interview questions, plus when we do our stakeholder meetings, we ask every stakeholder group, if you could ask an interview question, what would the interview question be? So we've been in districts before where we gather 50 to 60 questions, so we provide those to you as well. Those on the outside perhaps want to know something that you don't think about, or it's more important to them than perhaps you. There's a different mindset there, so that's pretty interesting to see what everybody wants to know. And so then we work through that for the final questions, interview questions, and we do that for the second round as well. Once you've conducted the first round of interviews, we go through the scoring process again to help you make the decision as to who to move forward as finalists. We identify candidates by letter until they have been announced and accepted an invitation, so no names are released until after that happens with the first round. We can also do stakeholder forums and those kinds of things with the finalists, come back in the district to get input and feedback in a variety of ways. And also the second round interview questions. So we have a couple quotes from districts that we have worked with in Michigan. We are working with a district right now as well that's just about ready for the interview phase starting next week, so we'll be done shortly. So this screen just talks about our process interview, how we're the largest search firm with the most searches completed and a large pool of candidates. Keeping in mind, Michigan sometimes has a slimmer pool of candidates because it's not a closed search and the names are released earlier at first round as opposed to just being a finalist. So their names come out a little bit earlier, which can affect the recruitment numbers. We notify our associates of the searches. We have a full-time office staff, me and one other person. We have a website that gets 28,000 unique visits per month. We do the in-depth background check that Sheila is fantastic at. In addition to the one-way videos, we work through the process of the timelines, the stakeholder meetings, what you're looking for, the salary comparisons to give you an idea of what nationwide districts comparable to yours in size are advertising for their positions. We can work with you at the end for contracts if you'd like. We do recommend that the candidate have their own attorney, obviously, to work with your district attorney. That just makes the most sense. So that's kind of our process really quickly. Any questions for us?
I'm sure there'll be quite a few questions. Before we get started, Sheila, I just want to say thank you for being the bridge between Brian Whiston and Michael Rice. I mean, that was a really tough time. So thank you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
So we can go around the table or just go at random. I know it drives our camera person a little crazy. But
well, I guess I'll just focus on one question. You have 1,600 searches completed. How many superintendents have you placed in those 1,600 searches?
Those are the superintendent searches, and that number has changed since that slide was put together. primarily, most of our searches, I would say 95, sorry, I'm not used to a microphone because I talk loud. About 95% or more are superintendent searches, and then we do cabinet level, but that's it.
Lauren.
What percentage of your candidates come from out of state? One of the reasons looking at all the candidates is, whether you get a more diverse group of candidates looking more widely, but we also hear a lot that people don't always have interest in, as you referenced, coming to Michigan for whatever reason. So when you've placed superintendents, what percentage of the time or roughly are you able to attract out-of-state candidates or,
In the final position
Yeah.
or just overall in the application process?
In
the
the final
application
position.
process, we always have a national
Yeah.
showing. I mean, I'm not saying 50 states,
Yes.
clearly, but we always have a national showing. Majority of those people that apply are the in-state candidates, but they're not necessarily placed. I would say, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even know the answer to that. You want to guess?
I don't.
No, you're not
I'm
fine.
sorry. Can't guess.
I would say probably 80% perhaps are from out of state. It just kind of depends on the district and what they're looking for and what the candidates are looking for. But we do get a national showing with the applications that we get in.
Is that it? Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi, I had 3 quick questions. The first question was around stakeholder and community surveying. Are we given the raw data on that?
Sorry. So what we do is, for the 31 quality survey, there are 6 groups, and you have to select which group you identify with and the qualities that you feel are the most important, and then they are allowed to have comments. So you will see the data, how each group selected the 31 qualities, how they ranked the 31 qualities, and then the board has the same survey. So we compare each group to the board to try and find the qualities that closely overlap. So as an example, if you're a teacher, you likely pick quality 31, which is K-12 classroom experience. That typically ranks really high for the teacher group, but might not for others. So you see each group as to how they selected the 31 qualities.
Okay, perfect. And then
And can I add to that?
Oh, yeah.
And you also get a list of all of the comments that were made.
All right, that was my follow-up question to that. All right, thank you. That was incredibly helpful when we did this 4 years ago to have the raw data as well as the summaries. My second question was, can you talk a little bit about the creation of the compensation package? That process was different for us last time because we had, we hired an internal candidate, so we worked with our assistant superintendent for human resources at the time, along with our own legal team. So can you, and we have a compensation, usually have a compensation committee. So we handled that with them. Can you explain that piece a little bit on how that comes to fruition? And then maybe when the final candidate is selected, how you work in tandem with Carol, who is sitting right over there.
There's always a money person, isn't there?
Well, we have that too, Miranda. So
what we do is, to start off the conversation, we bring in a Michigan salary comp and a national salary comp to try and find, the goal is to try and find the enrollment that matches closely to your district. And then also, if we're selected for the search, I would ask my contact districts that you compare yourselves to, because that's often helpful, because we don't want to compare you to somebody that you don't compare yourselves to. So the advertised salary would be a range. So the candidates are very well of what that range is, keeping in mind some people automatically think that they want the top or deserve the top. Once we get to that point of the process and the screening, we remind them of the salary, and then once we get toward the end, we have a contract component sheet that we provide to the board that lists perhaps vacation, annuity, 401k, all of those things. And we suggest taking into account the role that they have currently. On the application, we also ask for their current salary to kind of give you an idea of what they're making now and use that as the starting point. We haven't had any contracts fail because of that. But, you know, that's why we do a range. We don't want everybody to think that they're
But
at
if
the
it's a
top.
national search, you would not be able to do that in all states because of the laws of California and other
Correct.
states. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And so we give you a draft application to take a look at first to make sure that there's nothing on there, because you could have 5 lawyers in the room and they're all going to say something different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And then my final question was with regards to page 13 and 14. So in the state of Michigan, we have something I'm sure you're familiar with, the Open Meetings Act. And so I paused just a little bit when I read a little on consensus building. So I wanted to better understand how we make sure we are in legal compliance with the Open Meetings Act of the state of Michigan, and making sure that any of our deliberations are in public meeting at the table, even that initial building of consensus over what candidates to go from round 1 to round 2 and things like that. And then we are streaming this, and so it's incredibly important that the community see the potential candidates, because they become a huge part of our school and our city and our townships. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that piece of the process is in compliance?
Yep, sure can. So before we get to that point, I would provide the board with a non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement, because our goal is to try and keep it as tight as we can for the sake of the candidates. So we would meet with the board in closed session to just talk about the candidates. No decisions are made in closed session, but we talk about those candidates, and then we go through an explanation of the scoring matrix. We give you an example comparing ice cream flavors. That's the example that we use. And then we go out in open session. The board completes the scoring. We provide you with the scores, the total scores for candidates A through G, and how they rank. And then the board has discussion about who they want to move forward. The candidates are identified by letter and say, you know, you see the scores, they're all right there. Discussion, we want to move forward candidates A, C, D, and F. And then we give them, depending on the time of the meeting, about 24 hours to notify their people. And then we would provide you with the headshot and bio to be released. Once their names are released, and then in the final second round or after the first round, then they would be identified by name. We encourage only positive things to be said. As you know, it's Michigan. And then we go through that same scoring again with the finalists. So once the candidates have notified their people, then their names are out. And then they'll be identified that way. Does that make sense?
Thank you. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And considering that we've gone just a couple of minutes over, we'll give everybody a little grace for the next ones as well. I had one statement, one question. So first of all, the statement was, I really like the what question would you want asked? I like that a lot. And I assume there's no machine reading of all these documents that come in. You just put your eyeballs to the paper and note.
Kathy and me.
Got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But Darcy?
But we do type our notes so that you don't have to read our handwriting.
I'm sure greatly appreciate
AI
it.
there.
Yeah.
You talk about final interviews and the possibility that the board could elect to have the candidates meet with small constituent groups. I'm wondering how many districts take you up on that offer, and if you find that to be a more solidifying way for community input at that level.
Most districts take us up on that, but it also depends on the district. If we're in a district where the stakeholder input is very low in the stakeholder process in the beginning, then sometimes those boards opt to not do it at the end. I've been in districts that do that. Most districts have some kind of involvement. It just depends on what the district is like, and there's so many different ways that could look. It could be just as simple as one forum where we compile questions, the candidates are on the stage, we moderate, ask the candidates the same questions in different order, and then people provide feedback through SurveyMonkey. It could be individual groups as well, but it just depends on what the board wants and what your district would be receptive or not receptive to.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to try to be efficient. I have 3 questions. Number 1, how do you build your candidate database?
So the database is built upon people going to our website and registering in that. So I think right now we have over a couple thousand people in that, but we narrow that database down when we send out the invite to apply based on salary, region, what kind of role they're looking for. But even though we have a database, I would say over 95% of our positions are filled by people outside of that database.
Okay.
So the database just gets the word out, but the people usually don't come from there that apply for the job.
Okay. Second question, one of the things I found appealing about your proposal was this 2 and 5 guarantee piece. Can you explain more about that very quickly? And the second thing is, how often do school districts exercise it?
So we changed our guarantee a couple years ago. So it's first year, 1 year for any reason, we come back and do the search again. The second year is if a majority of the board is the same as when the candidate was hired. I think you probably can understand why that is. The 5-year guarantee is we don't poach or re-recruit our candidates during those 5 years. We obviously cannot stop them from applying, but we look very hard at that. And as for how often we've had to use it, see, I've been here almost 10 years, and I think I would say probably 5. One was a death, one was a health issue, so there's different variables, but not very often.
Okay. And then the last thing is, and I want to be very careful how I tread on this, I'm the treasurer, and so money and all of that. How flexible is $18,000? And it talks about, like in your proposal, about if we have certain things, our process is flexible. So can you speak to that a little?
So our process is pretty much our process, unless if you don't want stakeholder meetings, and obviously we would negotiate the price down. I know our price is considerably higher from those that you're meeting with. I did my research as well. So there is some negotiation that can take place. Whether we can come down as far as they are, I can't speak to that. That's not my decision to make, but there is negotiation, and we have in the past. So we'd be definitely willing to have that conversation.
You would? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Got anything, Tim?
Just, I was gonna talk about the price and the
Yeah,
possible
we know that
negotiation,
there's a big difference, I know.
But other than that, very informative,
But
and I appreciate it.
I will say, having been around the block a few times in school districts and in superintendent searches, Ray, I wouldn't be working for Ray and Associates if I didn't think it was a really high-quality organization and firm to work for.
Well, considering the time, I appreciate your presentation this evening, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having us. It truly was a pleasure, and it truly was a pleasure to be here at the beginning. I missed those types of recognitions, and it was really uplifting.
I recognize you every day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, let us know.
By the way, we wish you all the best, because this is the most important decision that you as a board will make, so we wish you all the best.
We went 7 minutes over, but we were still pretty brisk, so that's okay. We'll give a little grace to that.
It's a good database question.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then I wonder about how often do others, now it gets me thinking, like, how often do they poach each other's candidates?
I like the answer. It's professional and respectful.
Right, we don't want to hire somebody and have, somebody poach us. How about you guys? I love doing those courses. We had 33 meetings that we did. I think we had a crazy number of meetings.
It was also COVID, so we had a lot going on. Thank you. It's very warm and it's been very cold lately. I can touch it. I call it my polar bear. It feels like a little bear. Yeah. Isn't it fun? Is it an hour? It's I like things that sparkle sometimes. Is your name Mary? I'm Carol. Carol. Okay, I was trying to. I feel like you're.
Well, I've been here.
Oh. Well, thank you for observing.
I don't usually.
Like participation in the community.
I don't usually sit in the front row, but there wasn't any inconvenience.
The front row is the best view.
Yeah,
Zach likes to
right.
record from the front row.
Except Lauren is.
How excited
Perfect, thank you.
was Kim Jasper.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Thank you. We know you as the MLI guy, but if you can introduce
That's
yourself.
accurate. I am the MLI guy. Good evening, folks. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity on behalf of the Michigan Leadership Institute to do a presentation to you on our search services. John Silveri, in the proposal that you got details about me, but just briefly, I'm a longtime educator. I've been a teacher, counselor, principal, HR director, assistant superintendent of a couple of different school districts, one of 2,700 students and 5 schools. The other was 11,000 students in 20 schools. In retirement, I have taken on some interim roles too. Last year, I was the interim superintendent in Rochester. It's a very large district, about 15,000 kids, 23 schools. So I've had the benefit of working in a variety of different types of districts. And that's all in retirement. I've been doing this work with MLI since 2015. And during that time, I've provided lots of services for public school districts. But in terms of superintendent searches, I've done over 36 of these. At this point, I'm the most experienced consultant in the Michigan Leadership Institute when it comes to superintendent searches. So I bring that to the table. I'm happy to have the chance to talk about the services that we do provide and give you a chance to ask questions. So I understand you'd like me to keep it to about 20 minutes, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly.
Including questions.
Including
but the last
right.
person, the last group went a little over, so we'll not fret too much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to start with a sample search timeline, which again is in your proposal. But roughly, searches, the length of time is roughly about 14 weeks from beginning to end. That can vary depending on your needs. It can't be made a lot shorter. It can be tightened up a little bit. It can certainly go longer as you may need. But the very first step is I would come in and meet with you, and I would bring a draft timeline to you that we would talk about and modify as needed based on your availability, what works for your district, what else is happening in your district. We would talk about the other details of the search and be ready to get things launched. The next step for the next 2 to 3 weeks is we would begin to interact with you and your stakeholders to help develop a candidate profile and a district and community profile that would all become part of the posting. So we will typically do that both with an online survey of your constituents and face-to-face meetings. Depending on what you want, I would take my cue from you in terms of which groups you would like for me to meet with on site, although typically that's going to include staff members, parents, community members, even high school students. So I would take my cues from you on that. And so during that time, we're collecting that data, putting those profiles together, and creating the position announcement, which ultimately I would get back to you, give you a chance to review and make any modifications that you think that we need to. One big question I would always have is for you is to please make sure that I've got everything 100% accurate in that posting. So we would get that out. That posting then typically is out for a 5-week period of time. Again, that can be changed a bit. I don't like to go much shorter than that at all. If we would extend that a little bit based on your needs, we can. 5 weeks seems to work really well. Over time, that's proven to be true. So once we put that out there, it's quiet for you folks because you don't know what's happening during that time. It can be uncomfortable for you even. Candidates request confidentiality in their application, so I can't tell you who's applying. And sometimes boards will get curious and want to know how many people are applying along the way. I can tell you that, but I'm reluctant to, only because that can be very misleading too. Let's say in a 5-week process, 3 weeks in, I tell you that you've got 6 applicants, which might start panic among you thinking, oh my gosh, why isn't anybody interested? From experience, I can tell you that there may be people just waiting until those last couple of weeks, and so the number can be misleading. The other thing about the number is that it doesn't speak to quality. You can have 15 applicants, and if you have 10 of them who are viable candidates, that's a great pool. You could have 25 applicants, and if you have 5 who are viable candidates, not so much. So it's more about the quality of the applicants. That's what we focus on than it is about the number. So during that time, I'm reviewing the applications coming in. I'm also doing recruitment in part based on what's coming in, looking for people who may be a good fit, have conversations with any and all applicants who are at all viable and who may be worthy of your consideration during that time, just to assess their interest, ask some questions, get to know them a little bit. We can't do reference checks during that time because of the request for confidentiality, formal reference checks. Informally, we're doing internet searches. That's where our networking, we have an extensive network at our disposal that really helps. We're going to know very likely quite a few of the applicants too, either because they've been applicants in other districts or just because in the work that we do, we have connections throughout the region and throughout the state, and we know of these people. And if we don't know of them directly, we have enough connections that we can certainly learn about them. So I'm trying to learn as much as I can about them too, to be prepared to come back then and meet with you once the posting closes. So we'll come back together at that time. We go into closed session and I share all of the applications with you. I don't pick some and bring them to your attention. I bring them all to you. I do put them in 3 tiers, top, middle, and bottom. The top are those who I think are have the most relevant experience, most qualified, and who are the best fit in terms of your candidate profile. Middle tier are those who are qualified, could be a good fit, maybe don't have quite the experience of the top group, but worthy of consideration. Bottom tier typically are those who either I think are unqualified, or there are just reasons, things that I may be able to share with you during that time that I believe would cause you not to want to consider them. But what I share with boards and really stress is that you pick anybody you want to. I love to tell the story of the one district I worked with, brought them to 3 tiers. There was one candidate in tier 3 that they had interest in. She was only in tier 3, not because there was a concern, but because they had expressed an interest in finding somebody who had central office experience, and there were quite a few of those candidates. She was a high school principal. I explained that to the board, but somebody had heard good things about her on the board, and they wanted to bypass some of the those with central experience and talk to her in the interview process. Long story short, she's now in her 5th year as their superintendent. So again, I want to stress that it's not my choice. I bring them to you. I try to help by grouping them that way. Ultimately, it is 100% your decision on who you want to include and who you want to select. So we go through that process. We then get into first-round interviews. Our first-round interviews typically will include 4 to 6 people, although I do not give you a minimum or maximum number of people to select. I just don't think that makes any sense. You need to pick the people who you think are possibilities for you. If that's less than 4, if it's more than 6, so be it. We set up a schedule typically that will accommodate up to 6. But again, it seems to be somewhat uncanny, even telling boards that. It almost always falls in the 4 to 6 range. So with our interviews, we don't advise that you do any more than 2 per night, which makes that first week sometimes pretty grueling because you're looking at 3 nights potentially of interviews. And I also advise to the board that you don't put yourself in a position at the end of the 3rd night of interviews to have to make a decision that night. It's always better, I think, to walk away, have a chance to digest everything you've heard, reflect, especially on those most recent candidates. You don't want to deal with recency bias either. Plus, we have a very inclusive process, and we're gathering feedback from people who are present listening to the interviews. We give them a chance to give you their feedback and tell you what they think. So on that last night of interviews, if you jump into a decision, you won't really have had time to seriously consider the feedback that you would have gotten from your constituents either. So that first week can be a tough one. It could be up to 4 nights consecutively, fairly long nights. It is, but when you think about the gravity of the decision, our preference is we think that the 90-minute interviews, which is what we say up to 90 on that first night, are necessary in order for you to really seriously consider these folks and make the decision you have to. And so that's the toughest week in the process, but we think it's important that you take that level of time. So at the end of that, when you come back for that last night, you're going to deliberate and narrow the field down to finalists. Typically, ideally, it's going to be 2, but not always. Sometimes we see boards say there are 3 people. You have a tough time differentiating. That's fine. Hasn't happened very often. Occasionally, we'll have a board that will say there's only 1 that we really have an interest in bringing forward. If that's how you feel, that's what we do. Again, it's not ideal, but it all depends on who's in the mix and how you feel about what you're hearing. So you'll make that decision, and then we'll come back. Quite often it's the next week, sometimes a couple of weeks later, and we'll get into 2nd-round interviews. In those interviews, We have those on separate nights for a reason. We have the candidates during the day come into the district, and they spend time meeting with stakeholder groups throughout the course of the day. Those folks have an opportunity to submit questions that I collect from them, I ask of the candidates in front of them, and then they have an opportunity to provide feedback. We ask you not to be there so that they can be as straightforward as they need to be. Board presence can be intimidating. Same with administrators. We'll include administrators, but we'll have a separate group for them and kindly invite them not to be present for the other groups. So they have a chance to get their questions asked and answered, and they provide written feedback again to the board there. That evening, candidates come for the second interview. Typically for those, it's about up to 60 minutes for the actual interview with different questions that you will have selected. We also include a presentation in that second interview. We normally start with a presentation for up to about 20 minutes. And I'll be working with you. You would be the ones to select the topic. So if there's a topic of particular interest, what would be beneficial for you to hear more from the candidates on that topic than you're going to get in a typical 3 to 4 minute response to an interview question. That would be a great opportunity. So part of it's about the content, part of it's about presentation style. The superintendent is obviously going to be doing a lot of public speaking. It could be beneficial to you to kind of see how they handle that too and what their style is. So long day for the candidates. For you on those nights, even though it could be 2 to 3 nights for you, relatively short. You're coming in just for that second interview. It could be up to 80 minutes, including the presentation and the actual interview, and then you're on your way. So you're not doing any more. You're not making any decisions that week. The candidates, the other step in the process is going to be up to you too. We'll be talking about that. Some districts prefer site visits, which means a subcommittee of the board, up to 3 of you, would go to the home district of the candidates and would have a chance to interact with stakeholders in that district and ask questions. You get a sense for whether or not what you see is really what you're going to get based on what the people they currently work with and for think about them. The candidates pick the people that you're going to talk to, which I know sometimes people can look at that and think, well, how does that help? Because they're only going to pick people who are going to say nice things about them. What I can tell you is through extensive experience, I always ask boards if it benefited them. And most often they say it was tremendously helpful, and in many cases they say it was a difference maker. Even if people are there because there's kind of an expectation they're likely to say nice things, how they go about that can be really decisive. It's one thing to say something nice because you feel like you need to. So you ask a question, candidate responds, or somebody there responds about the candidate. And as you look around the room, you see, there's not much enthusiasm behind it. Others maybe are kind of looking down and not ready to jump in, versus somebody's effusive in their praise. Other people are eager to jump in. Sometimes you see people crying. They're full of emotion at the thought of losing this person. It can be really telling. So that's an option for you. Another option is to bring the candidates in, and we do a couple of things in those instances. We can have a meet and greet where it's kind of an open forum. It might sound a bit like Hunger Games, but we put them in the same room together and separate them, and have an opportunity for stakeholders to come in and informally just interact with them and have conversation, and again then provide feedback for you based on that experience. We also then would have the chance for 2 to 3 of you to help shepherd them throughout the district. Just kind of give them a tour of the district, bring them actually into your schools where they have a chance to interact with students, staff members. You have a chance to observe that and get a sense from that as to how they may fit within your district. So you'll have some options there. That's going to be the very last step in the process. So you're going to, by that time, have a lot of data to consider. You're going to have the initial application materials, which we're going to share with you on all of the candidates. You'll keep the materials on those that you're going to interview. Candidates almost always will come into the interviews with additional materials that they're going to want to give you, and so you'll have that at your disposal. You're going to have feedback from your stakeholders who watched and listened to the interviews from the first round and the second round. You're going to have feedback from your stakeholders from those pre-second interview meetings that they will have had. Lot to consider there, and whether it's the site visit, whether it's the building tour, whether it's the meet and greet, there's going to be some additional feedback you're going to have from those things to consider too, as well as, by then, of course, I will have done extensive reference checks and anything I learned about the candidates that will help inform your decision. I would be sharing with you, good, bad, or ugly. I'll be doing that all along the way. Even going back to the first round, if I hear something before you make that very first decision about selecting finalists that is of concern, I will put that on your radar immediately so that you can consider that before you make even that decision. So you're going to get a lot of data, a lot of information, and part of our job through all of this is to walk you right through it and kind of hold your hand and make it as easy for you as possible. So we do all of this for a professional fee of $8,200 plus direct expenses. It's going to be mostly mileage, not to exceed $800. It's funny, reactions we get sometimes when boards hear this, especially when they consider some firms that charge quite a bit more, is how can you possibly offer the quality that they do for so much less? It's all about what we're trying to accomplish here. It's more of a service that we're providing than anything. We realize that districts aren't wealthy necessarily, right? You have a lot of expenses. We try to keep this as reasonable as possible and as affordable as possible. So that's it. The only additional fees would be for the possibility of, if you wanted to put the posting in national publications, there's an additional $1,400 fee for that, which is strictly to cover the cost of those postings. There's no profit margin there at all. And then we have Hewlings and Associates is a company that will do kind of a personality inventory. If you would like to include that in this process, that's an additional $2,000, which would cover 4 candidates, and then an additional $500 for any additional. You could do that in the first round, you could wait and do it in the second round, or you can choose not to do that at all. So those would be the only possible additional expenses that you might incur. We have a guarantee that if we endorse the candidacy of this candidate, and all that means is that if you pick somebody, for example, from that third group, and I'm telling you this is a really bad idea, and you go full steam ahead, you may be jeopardizing our guarantee a bit, but I'll be up front and tell you that, right? There would be no surprise there. That's never happened, by the way, so I don't expect that it would. But if that person leaves within the first year for any other reason other than personal or family illness, I would come back and I would help you conduct a second search for an expense-only basis. There would be no additional fee. That's something that has happened in my vast experience. I've had to do that once for a school district. It's a pretty rare occurrence. Our track record generally has been really, really good with that, and the longevity of the candidates that have been placed has been great. Although what I always tell boards is that I'm not going to take credit when the candidates excel and it looks like you hit a home run, that you get to take the credit. I'm not going to take the blame if the candidate gets the job and they struggle, because honestly, ultimately, other than that first step where I put the candidates into groups, I'm not putting my thumb on the scale. I'm helping you, but it's going to be your call totally. So, in terms of our organization, we're a leadership organization. Our tagline is developing, deploying, and supporting outstanding leaders. That's our business. That's what we do. The development part of this, we have a Superintendent Preparation Academy. We've prepared roughly 800 Michigan educational leaders. Nearly 25% of the current superintendents in Michigan have gone through our Preparation Academy. Our participants represent the diversity of leadership in Michigan, and we do provide executive coaching at all levels in terms of development. When I say all levels, administratively, from assistant principals all the way up to superintendents. We deploy outstanding leaders as well. We recruit and consult with prospective candidates. We work with boards and committees that you serve to search for the best fit, and fit is everything when it comes to these jobs. There may be candidates out there. There may be some who apply who can be outstanding superintendents. Maybe they even already are an outstanding superintendent somewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right person for you. They may not be the best fit for you. So fit is going to be a huge part of what we're looking for. We do lead you through the selection, interview, visitation, and contract negotiation processes. And we use our own proprietary documents and procedures to make sure that this is successful. And we support outstanding leaders. We do provide mentoring for the new superintendent for the first year on the job. That would be me. I would be the person who would be connected to your superintendent. I don't impose myself on your new superintendent, but I make clear to the new superintendent I'm available as much as you may need me. I've had people formally set up meetings once a month, and then I'm also getting texts and emails and phone calls, which is great. I've had people who maybe have their own mentors already, and so they don't utilize my services much. I leave it up to them, but know that we're available. We do offer executive coaching for a fee beyond the first year, but I have to tell you that unless a person's requesting something very formalized and frequent, there are people that I helped to place years ago, 5, 6 years ago, who still will reach out on occasion, and I'm always happy to help them. So once we establish that relationship, that remains intact for as long as they would like for it to.
John, I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting. I don't know how many more slides you have left, but with a hard stop at around 7 minutes from now,
Okay.
will we have time for some questions?
I'm going to go through the rest very quickly, and I appreciate that heads up.
Thank you.
No worries. I understand your time is valuable. So we support districts in a variety of ways. I think you have that in your materials. I won't get into that. We stay current with research. We provide leadership and governance academies. Really importantly, we know the requirements of FOIA and the Open Meetings Act. Part of our job is to keep you out of trouble, and we will do that. And I'm not shy. If you start to get out of your lane and kind of you're heading for a landmine, I will tell you that nicely, but I'll tell you that. And my job is to stop you from doing anything that you shouldn't. We have a very vast network, and our entire team, which is totally comprised of former superintendents, everybody in our organization collaborates on every search. So, and we consultants like me are based regionally. So if we have applicants from other parts of the state, I can reach out to my colleagues who may know something about those folks that I don't. So that proves to be invaluable. We have roughly our collective experience of 130 years of successful superintendent service that really comes in handy. We know leadership. We know what it takes to be a successful superintendent. I think more so than you're going to see in any other organization. The guarantee, we're going to continue with the search until you have an acceptable candidate. I explain what happens if they choose to leave. If you do contract with us for quarterly governance workshops in the first year, we extend that guarantee to 2 years. So why us? You're talking to several firms. We can all do the job, and we're all going to be able to lead you through a search. I'll just hit on some of the reasons that we're highlighting. Experienced and knowledgeable consultants. All of us have been highly successful superintendents. We have an extensive network of outstanding leaders. Our process, which we're proud of, is very thorough, it's very transparent, and as I indicated by how much your stakeholders are involved, it's very inclusive as well. We have a very strong reputation with a long record of success in doing searches throughout the state. We never forget that this is about kids and the impact that these decisions have. We're very proud of our customer service and our commitment to doing this the right way. Very proud of that, and we're committed to that. We actually kind of stole this from feedback I got from a board at one time who said that we made the search easy for them, but the decision was exceedingly difficult because of the quality of the candidates. So we take great pride in that. We do provide, as I indicated, ongoing support well after the search is completed. High degree of client satisfaction, and more than anything else, I think that speaks volumes. I have yet to hear a district after conducting a search that expressed disappointment or indicated that we didn't do what we said we were going to do. The feedback has always been really good. One quick story I'll tell you too, a couple of current examples. I did a search, the superintendent search in Olivet schools about 5 years ago. That superintendent is still there, but in these subsequent 5 years, during that time, they asked me to come back and help facilitate their strategic planning process, which I did. I was there last night to conduct a board governance workshop because they had several new board members. So I think that speaks to the customer satisfaction. West Bloomfield, about 3 years ago, helped place their superintendent. They had me come back and mentor, 8 to 10 of their administrators throughout the district. Subsequent to that, and Monday I'm going back to West Bloomfield to conduct a board governance workshop. So very high level of client satisfaction. And we are a service organization. Leadership is what we do. It's our business. It's our specialty. We know this work. We know what's required. And we think based on that, we can be exceedingly helpful to you.
Well, thank you, John. Let's take a brisk 4 minutes worth or 5 of questions from the board. I see a head shake. Oh, our student rep actually would like to ask a quick question too.
I'll be really quick. I was looking at the search timeline, And in work weeks 2 through 3, it says that meet with board and designated staff. And the thing that stands out to me most as like a student rep is community groups to develop a candidate profile. How do you determine the community groups that you're going to interview, and what level of influence do their opinions have? Because I've grown up through the entire like Saline system, so it's my younger brother and younger sister, and they'll come to me and be like, "Oh, you're on the board. Can you do this?" I'm like, "No."
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, I'll try my best, and yeah, I was gonna say it, and I take their words into consideration, but especially my younger sister in 6th grade, most of that revolves around getting more snow days. But what level of that? How do you determine what communities to interview and get their opinions on, and what level of influence do their words have?
So basically, we include, we structure it too. I come into the district and we structure it to accommodate their schedule. So normally we build a schedule around teachers, student dismissal time and teachers. So I like to break secondary and elementary up since they have different dismissal times. So we schedule a meeting with secondary staff after student dismissal, soon after. We schedule a meeting with elementary staff soon after student dismissal, and then build the rest of the schedule around that. Almost always we'll meet separately with administrators. Depending on the size, sometimes we even break up central administrators and building administrators. We quite often will have parents and community members together. If the board desires, we can provide a couple of those different opportunities. I love to include high school students, and I think sometimes some of what they have to offer is tremendously insightful and really helpful. So we pull all of those responses together in terms of what are people looking for in their next superintendent. We pull the most common responses from everybody, and we put them together to form that candidate profile. So nobody's prioritized over others. It's really kind of the collective responses we get. So no matter when you talk to all these diverse groups, what's important is what's rising to the top in terms of what people really think is important and what they're looking for. But we think it's really great to include students. And then when we have those groups that meet with the candidates before the second round interviews, we like to include high school students in those too.
All right, thank you. That
You're
was
welcome.
my question.
Great question.
If anyone has an urgent question, Jennifer.
For the extra 2K, can you tell me what psychometric you use?
The form Hewlings and Associates?
Yeah.
I can't give you the details in that. I'm going to be totally transparent with you. We've begun to offer that service fairly recently. I haven't had any takers yet, so I haven't had any firsthand experience with Hewlings other than to know. I've spoken to the folks from Hewling. I know they're very highly regarded, very experienced. So if there was some interest on the board's part, even before you made a commitment, if you needed to hear from those folks first, we could certainly arrange to have them come in and share exactly what they would do before you make any kind of financial commitment.
Okay.
I think I had read that it was the DISC survey they use, DISC.
That sounds, I think that's right. I believe that's true.
Firm, but, and then what percentage of out-of-state candidates do you usually bring to the table?
There's almost always some presence with out-of-state. And honestly, I think whether or not we include that national advertising, I think if you have folks from out-of-state who have any interest whatsoever in relocating to Michigan to become a superintendent, they know exactly where to look. They do. If as a Michigan superintendent, wanted to go work in Ohio or Indiana or Illinois, I would know how to find kind of the warehouse or the clearinghouse where you could find those postings. Very easy to do. So almost always, though, what's interesting is the vast majority of applicants tend to be from Michigan, no matter how you advertise these things. And the vast majority of the superintendents who are selected end up being from Michigan, too. Sure.
Unless there's anything actually urgent and pressing. Well, thanks, Brett. If we do have questions, I'm sure we can fire them off to John Silveri. Thank you so much for presenting
my
this
pleasure.
evening. And as our students will escort you out, I'm sure. But I thank you for your time this evening. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
If you know Dave Phillips, please tell him hello.
I know Dave exceptionally well. Dave is a close colleague, and Dave has finally fully retired, but I'll pass on your best. No more searches. No, not for Dave.
I got to meet your sister-in-law.
Oh, you did? Good.
just a point. Just a point. Finalists? Firms? We interviewed two. Oh, final candidates? I think there were four. I thought there were four. Hi, how are you? Good, yourself? Good. Welcome back.
Good to see you all.
You don't remember that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. That's where I had read it. To the board, thank you very much for your patience. Jay Bennett, who some of us know from receiving MASB awards from you. I just want to welcome you to Saline, and we're going to aim for about, we originally planned for 20 minutes,
Sure.
and we went over by about 8
Yeah.
twice. So the floor is yours
That's fine.
until 28 minutes from now, and then the hook comes out.
All right. All right.
The hook.
Ready to go?
At your
All right. Well, good
convenience.
evening, everybody. Good to see you all. My name is Jay Bennett. I'm the Assistant Director for Executive Search Services at the Michigan Association of School Boards. My primary responsibilities with MASB are around superintendent search and superintendent evaluation. I also teach a variety of classes for MASB, workshops, and the like. I am a former board member. I served on my local school board in Grand Ledge, just outside of Lansing. I also served on my RESA board in Eaton County. So I've been right there where you sit as well. So I've been on that other side of the table. I'm a lifelong educator. I started my career in middle school and high school special education, taught for many years, and so I've been involved in education in one way, shape, or form since the tender age of 5. So here we are tonight to talk to you about superintendent search and what MASB can do for you. I have been doing search for MASB for about 10 years, 7 years full-time. Before that, I was a contractor, and so I did searches on the side, but I've been doing it full-time now for about 7 years. In fact, my anniversary is this week with MASB. I've done over 35 searches or so over those past 10 years in districts like yours, in districts bigger than yours, in districts much smaller than yours, suburban, urban, rural, across the state. I haven't done any in the UP, but I have done them in just about every other portion of the state. So one of the differences that we bring to you as your membership organization is that we are your membership organization. We only serve boards of education. We provide you with unparalleled support. I have an office of full support from my legal staff, from my marketing staff, from my search staff. And so we have a staff of people ready to help you out. We've done over 700 successful searches since we've been doing searches at MASB. We have a track record of success. We have a national network and promotion. We have a close working relationship with the other education associations. MASA, the Superintendent's Association, is right across the hall from us. The business officers are right down the hall from us. The secondary principals are right next door to us. And we have very good relationships with all of those education associations as well. We really value transparency in our process. I'm not going to take you into closed session at any point during the search except for 2 very specific reasons. And those 2 very specific reasons are if you have a number of internal candidates, and I don't think that we can talk about those internal candidates in an open meeting without inadvertently violating their confidentiality. We'll go into closed session just to talk about the internal candidates. The other reason would be if you decide to employ any kind of behavioral testing of the applicants, then we can talk about the results of those tests in closed session, but then we'll come back out of closed session and we'll continue on with the process. So those are the only 2 reasons. Everything else that we do during our searches is going to be in an open meeting. We really value that transparency. We also have a unique application system called Revelis. Revelis was developed by the Ohio School Boards Association. It is in use by a number of other school board associations across the country, including, very conveniently for all of you, Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and I believe Illinois is coming on board this year. So as soon as I post that job to our system, it automatically gets out to those other systems as well. Beyond the Midwest, Florida, North Carolina, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Alaska. When I see Alaska candidates, I'm pretty sure that that's how they saw the post, was because when I posted here, it automatically posted that one in Alaska. So we have that national reach, and that is completely at no cost to you. That's just part of the process. When I post it in my system, it automatically goes out to all those other systems at no additional cost to you. Okay, so because we are your organization, your association, we are beholden to you. I'm beholden to working with boards of education. That's what I do. We're committed to helping you find the appropriate candidate with a focus on longevity. We want to find you someone that hopefully is going to be here for a very long time. I have no obligation to place candidates. I don't have a stable of candidates that I promised the job to or promised anything to. That doesn't mean that I don't know of some candidates out there that have said to me, hey, you know, if you get that Saline search, that's something I'd be interested in. So yes, I've been getting those calls already. I was just up at the superintendent's conference, midwinter conference in Grand Rapids a couple weeks ago. I talked to a number of people that were inquiring about this opportunity and saying, hey, if MASB gets that gig, let me know. I'd definitely be interested. So the word is out. So you definitely have some people out there that are interested in this job for sure. So the no obligation to place candidates doesn't mean that I don't have candidates that have expressed interest, or I don't have those people that I would call and encourage to apply. I make no promises. If you as board members have anyone that you want me to reach out to, give me a name. When I talk to your staff in your community, I tell them the same thing. If you know of somebody that used to work here and then went off to another district, but you would sure like to see them come back, give me a name. Give me as much contact information as you've got. I'll reach out to them and I'll encourage them to apply. I'm not making any promises. I'm not telling anybody that you're the next superintendent in Saline. All I'm saying is put your application materials in the pool, let the board decide who they want, and hopefully you'll be that lucky one that's selected. So we encourage as many people to apply that are meeting those criteria that you've set. We are also ever mindful of the laws and of public perception. Anytime I have a question about legal that I am not quite too certain about, I have Brad on speed dial. And Brad Banasic is recognized as the expert in the Open Meetings Act across the state. So, anytime I can text Brad, call Brad, and get clarification on anything that I'm not too sure about. Brad doesn't like it when I play lawyer. I didn't sleep at the Holiday Inn Express last night, so I tried to stay away from the legal stuff without consulting with our legal team. So some assurances for you. No surprise guarantee. If I hear about it, if I see it in any of the background checks, any of the reference checks, when we release the names of the candidates, you're going to get phone calls. You're going to get text messages. You're going to get emails. I know someone who knows someone who knows someone that knows that person. You need to route that stuff to me so that I can vet it out. I'm going to get phone calls, right? When those names are released, when they're out there, you're going to start getting feedback from people who know someone who knows someone. They're fantastic. They're terrible. They're awful. Whatever it is, you're going to hear that. Let me know so that I can vet it out. Any communications with stakeholders, I'm going to communicate all of that back to you. So when I have those meetings with your constituent groups, your parents, your staff, your community, your students, I'm definitely going to relay that information back to you. The survey results are all going to come back to you, so you're going to see all that input from your community for sure. The quality of the candidate pool. If you're not happy with the pool, we'll go out and we'll do it again. I am cautiously optimistic that you'll get a good pool of candidates. You're a very attractive opportunity for sure. As I said, I'm already getting phone calls about the opportunity, so I'm cautiously optimistic that you're going to get a good pool of candidates. If I think about the pools that we've been seeing, 6, 7, 8 years ago, we get 20 to 25 applicants. Of those 20 to 25, 10 to 15 of them would be good, solid applicants that you would think about interviewing. Now, 15 to 20 applicants, and maybe only 8 or 9 are really good, solid applicants that you'd consider. But those 8 or 9 are good, solid candidates. So I don't want you to think that you're not going to get good, solid candidates. You will. The pools just aren't as deep as they used to be, but the top ends of those pools are still pretty good. So there's a very good chance you're still going to get some good candidates. But if you're not happy with the pool, then we'll go out and we'll do it again. Minimum of a 1-year tenure. So as long as that candidate is here for a year, then you're good to go. If they make it less than a year, then we'll come back out and do that search for free. All right, board leadership. We know that selecting a superintendent is one of the most important things that you as a Board of Education do. So we're going to work with you to make sure that that process is as flawless as possible. We know that effective high-functioning boards such as yourselves are much more attractive to applicants and to candidates. As much research as you're going to do on the candidates, they're doing on you as well. Okay, and when they start to do that research, what are they going to find? And I have all the faith in the world that things that they find out about you as a board and your district are going to be positive for sure. The clearer the picture, the type of leader that it is that you're looking for, the easier it's going to be for those candidates to understand and to apply, and easier for me to do that recruiting because they know exactly what it is that the Saline board and the Saline community and the Saline staff are looking for in the next superintendent. The search process is usually about a 13 to 14 week process. We can definitely make some adjustments to this. We can speed it up a little bit if you want. We can slow it down a little bit if you want. But it's usually right around a 13 to 14 week process. Weeks 1 through 3, that's when we're preparing for the search. Preparation includes establishing the search timeline, planning the stakeholder engagement meetings, make sure that we're meeting with all the groups that you want us to meet with, developing that compensation range and the length of the contract, publish that preliminary posting. We do have a digital brochure that we can customize for your district. We can put your points of pride in here. We can talk about your recent middle school teacher that won the Presidential Math and Science Award. We can talk about all the positive things going on in the district. We can put into that digital brochure. It would have your school colors, your school mascot. This is an example from another district, but we could easily mock one up for your district with all those points of pride if that's something that you're interested in. It's part of the package, no additional cost. Some boards love to do it. Other boards like, don't worry about it. Completely up to you. Stakeholder engagement. We have plenty of opportunities to come out and work with your staff and your community. We have the survey that we put out there. In fact, in the folders that I presented to you, or that your president passed out to you, is a sample of what one of the surveys looks like. So you get an idea of what kinds of questions are in that survey. And so that survey goes out. You put it out on your social media, your Facebook, your Twitter, send it out on your email list, put a link to it on your website, and everyone in the community can then respond to that survey. All those results are then given back to the board in a presentation. We'll have those face-to-face focus groups as well. After first round interviews, there's an opportunity for anyone that's here in the audience during that interview to fill out a feedback form, how they felt about those interviews. Those feedback forms are then copied and distributed to all the board members so you can see the input that you're getting from your community and your staff. Weeks 4 through 10, now we're talking about recruitment. And so during this recruitment effort, we're making sure that we use our in-state marketing, so the My Staff page, which is where every education job in the state is posted, the Revelis program that we have, it gets posted there as well. And then we can talk about other places that you'd like to post. Those come with an additional cost, but if there's other nationwide places that you would like to post, we can definitely talk about those. I can give you the breakdown of the cost of those, and I can also give you an idea as to how effective they are. Hint, hint, not very. But we can talk about that, and I can give you more details about that if you are interested in using any of those out-of-state advertisers. So during that recruitment, I will vet applicants, and by vetting, if you get 20 applicants that have successfully completed an application, you're going to see all 20. I don't take anybody out of the pool. If they successfully complete an application, you're going to see it. You're going to see that some of those applicants are probably not exactly what you're looking for. You'll see that some are exactly what you're looking for. It's going to be a mix, but you're going to see all of them. So I don't hold any candidates back from you. I will break them into 2 tiers. Those 2 tiers are going to represent a top tier and a bottom tier. Those in the top tier are the ones that, based on their resume, their cover letter, their application materials, what I know, they are the closest match to what you as a board and community and staff have said you're looking for. The bottom tier are those that don't quite get there. You may see someone in the bottom tier that on paper looks like everything that you're looking for. And you may say, so Jay, what's going on with this one? Why is that particular candidate in the bottom tier? And I'll let you know that, well, there's probably something in the top tier that's probably a little bit more appealing to you than that particular individual. And some boards will be like, okay. Other boards will push a little bit harder. Well, no, really, what is it exactly? Just suffice it to say, I know something about that candidate. I don't know that's someone that you want to bring out in front of your community. And again, then a lot of boards are like, okay, we get it. Some boards will say, no, a little bit more. Okay, well, do me a favor. Go ahead and you got your laptop open. Go ahead and type their name in Google. I'll give you a second. Oh. Yes, now you see why that candidate, while on paper has all the requisite knowledge and information and job experience that you're looking for, there's something about them that probably is not something that you want to bring out in front of your community. If you see someone in the bottom tier that just kind of strikes your fancy and a majority of the board wants to interview that candidate, by all means, if they're in the bottom tier and you think I missed something or you think there's something about that candidate that you really want to get to know more about, then if a majority of the board is in favor of interviewing that candidate, then we can definitely make that happen. That breaking up of the tiers is just my way of helping you out, saying these are the ones that most closely match what you say you're looking for, these are the ones that don't, but you're going to see all the materials. And so if you decide something different than I do, that's completely okay. 11 and 12, now we're talking about the interview process. So we will select the candidates for interviews. We will make sure that we're in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. We believe in this process unfolding in public. We want everything to happen in an open meeting, okay? We discuss the applicants by numbers. So you get that list of 20 applicants. They all have a random number assigned to them. And when I say random number, I literally go into Google, give me 20 random numbers between 1 and 100, and then I just assign those numbers to the applicants. The numbers mean nothing. But I start with the board president. Board president says, I really like 6, 18, 15, 23, 72, and 15. All right. And then I go on to the other. And then we see. And generally speaking, the boards usually kind of coalesce around the same 6 or 7 applicants. So if you've got 6 applicants that all got 4 or more votes, a majority of the board believes that they would like to call them in for an interview, then those are the 6 or 7 applicants that we'll reach out to. If you're 4 or more votes on 5, and you've got a 6th candidate that only got 3 votes, then we can talk about that candidate. And maybe that's a candidate that, you know, another board member jumps on and says, yeah, let's bring him in, so we're interviewing 6. Generally speaking, like I said, after that process, boards usually kind of coalesce around the same numbers. We're only basing that initial reaction, that initial selection on what we see in the application. Cover letter, resume, the application, their letters of recommendation. We're going to discourage you from doing any significant digging on those candidates ahead of time, because I want you to come in this just based on what's in front of you on the paper and my experience as a searcher, and that helps remove the bias from the situation, because you start digging into the applicants ahead of time, it can start to cloud your judgment a little bit. And so we're going to try to remove as much bias as possible by just judging by what we have in front of us. Now, that doesn't mean that I've not vetted those candidates. I have. That doesn't mean that I haven't reached out to every candidate that I don't already know and talk to them, because I will talk to every applicant. If there's 20 applicants, I'm going to talk to every one of them before the search and get an idea as to who they are. I'm going to reach out to my contacts. There's a pretty good chance, because I see every search that comes through our office, whether I'm doing it or one of my consultants is doing it or my director is doing it, I see all the applications. So I'm pretty familiar with most of the people that are out there applying for the superintendencies. You will attract some people that maybe have never applied for a superintendency before, but that doesn't mean that I don't know them. They could be a current sitting superintendent from a district that I'm very familiar with, or I probably know somebody that knows somebody that knows them. And so again, I'm going to do a lot of that vetting ahead of time for you and make sure that we're presenting a good pool of candidates for you to take a look at. We do not divulge the names of the candidates until they've actually accepted an interview. So if you choose 6 that you'd like to interview, I reach out to all 6. If all 6 accept an interview, then we release the names. If only 5 of 6 accept interviews, then only those 5 names are released. The only people that know who's applied are the 7 of you, your administrative assistant, because we give them access to the materials in case you want any of it printed so they can print them here, myself, people in my office, but other than that, nobody knows who's applied unless unless the applicant tells somebody in addition. And we do our best to maintain that confidentiality, because it is a risky proposition, especially for a current sitting superintendent, to put themselves out there. So they really have to believe that they're applying to this job, and that if they're selected and they've decided to interview, that it's the right choice for them. So those first round interviews, we hold those in an open session. We recommend that, recommend the questions with the board. We work with the board. You're going to pick the questions that you want to ask. I'm going to have some ideas of some questions that are, pretty effective based on what we've done in the past. But you get to pick the questions. So we'll definitely work together on developing those questions. All candidates in the first round get the same set of questions. We want that consistency in the first round. And then in the second round, we can dig a little deeper. The second round, we can ask some follow-up questions. Second round, we can, dig a little deeper, take a little bit more time with fewer questions and get to know them even better in that second round. During that second round, just like the first, there's an opportunity for feedback from the community. They can fill out those forms. During the second round, we also allow an opportunity for the community members to fill out questions. I will then collect those questions, present those questions to the board president, and then determine that based on how much time we have left in the interview, then the board president may ask some of those questions of the superintendent candidates. If there's 30 questions from the community, probably won't get to all of them, but maybe we'll get to 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Really going to depend on time. Then we come down to the decision. So it's at this time that, after we've discussed all the candidates, we've discussed the interviews, it is at that time that I turn the meeting back over to the board president. Board president then opens the floor for a motion. The motion is going into contract negotiations with candidate X. We get a second, we have discussion, we take a vote. If we are successful in a majority vote to go into contract negotiations with X, it is then generally up to the board president, maybe 1 or 2 other members of the board, to start those negotiations. Ideally, you've had a contract ready to go and you presented that to your finalists ahead of time. You've already worked with your legal counsel to make sure that your contract is current and up to date. There's been some changes in the past couple years in what is needed and necessary in those contracts, especially with the evaluation law that we just passed not too long ago. So you want to make sure that you work with your legal team to make sure that you have all the appropriate things in that contract for your next superintendent. And then once you have come to that successful negotiation, that final contract needs to be brought back to the entire board in an open meeting for passage. Okay? The search process is not done after that. As your association, as part of the process, we will provide additional support to you after the search has been completed. So we have a follow-up workshop that we will conduct. We'll come back into the district 4 to 6 months after the superintendent has been in place, and we'll have that follow-up workshop. It's a successful superintendent transition workshop. We'll talk about communication. We'll talk about goal setting. We'll talk about evaluation. I also have an area rep program that I oversee. The area rep program is retired superintendents that visit every new superintendent in the fall. Doesn't matter if it's a search that we did, if it's a search that my competition did, if it was an internal hire, if they just elevated someone up, doesn't matter. If they're a new superintendent in a district, even if they were a superintendent last year, but they're a new superintendent in a new district this year, they're going to get a visit from one of my area reps. And that's an opportunity for one of my experienced retired superintendents to sit down with a new superintendent and kind of say, hey, how's it going? What can MASB do for you? And so that's another layer of support that we provide to every new superintendent in the state. And then we also will provide a price break on your first facilitated evaluation. I've been here in this district and worked with your board before on facilitated evaluation with your superintendent. We always recommend with a first-time superintendent or a new superintendent in your district that you seriously consider facilitated evaluation, especially if it's their first ever evaluation. It does help that process. It takes the onus off the board president, the onus off the superintendent. You have an outside voice kind of running through that evaluation process and leading you through that evaluation process. And we think it's pretty effective. So those are the things that I wanted to cover with you tonight. What types of things, what questions do you have? What did I not talk about that you wish I had?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bennett.
Yeah.
We'll open up the board. Brad, since we cut you off the last time.
Thank you for being here and doing this.
Yeah.
Will you personally, you're saying like I will be screening, are you,
It's
Jay
me.
Bennett, conducting our search?
I am.
Okay. That's the biggest thing I wanted to know. Thank
Okay,
you.
absolutely.
I can just work our way down. The student reps have any quick question based on what you've heard? Thank you. Tim? No? Darcy? Go ahead.
Thanks, Jay. That was a really nice presentation.
Yeah.
Carol left, but my question is, how do you work with the assistant superintendents for human resources within the district, either with regards to compensation alignment or contract creation? Do you have any examples you can give
Yeah.
of positive working relationship?
Yeah.
Or do you kind of manage that separately and we bring that to Carol?
Yeah,
Like,
so
can
there's
you
a couple.
talk about
Yeah,
that?
so there's a couple of things. So ultimately, it's up to the board to set that salary scale. So you're going to determine what you want that salary scale to be. I'll bring you some comparative districts. I'll work with the board president to kind of determine what districts would you like me to compare yourself to, so that you get a good idea of what the comps are out there, right? What other superintendents in similar sized districts in your vicinity, maybe even outside of your general geography, but in a district similar to yours in another part of the state, so that you get a good idea of what the pay scale is out there. Because we know that if you don't set a competitive pay scale, it's definitely going to impact the kinds of candidates that you get, right? They want to see that it's going to be a competitive pay. So I'll definitely work with them and the board, making sure that you're happy with the pay scale and that you set the appropriate pay scale for the process. For the most part, you're hiring a search firm to handle a vast majority of this process. Generally, what I need from district personnel is logistics, making sure that the space that we're using for a meeting tonight, the space that I was originally in before I came in here, they were doing CPR in there with Girl Scouts. So I decided to step out of the room, and I ended up in another room in the office here. So logistically, we just want to make sure that, whatever space we have a meeting in, there's not something else going on in that room, right? So it's really a lot of logistics. I don't have access to your website, so anything that we want to post on your website, I would need someone from the district to do that. I generally have a fairly close working relationship with the administrative assistant to the superintendent, because that's usually the person that kind of coordinates everything on the other end, or at least that's the person of contact. And then if she's not the one that has, or he's not the one that has access to the website, they know who to get it to make sure that it gets up on the website. I try to stay to one point of contact. Sometimes, I don't know if you have a PR person, sometimes the PR person may be that point of contact, and I may just reach out to the PR person and give them the stuff for the website or the press releases or things of that nature.
So just to follow up, with contract creation specifically.
So a contract creation, I generally recommend that you take a look at your current contract with your current superintendent, have your legal team look at that as well, and it could be your HR, and then make sure that it's appropriate and that anything that was in the contract for your previous superintendent that doesn't need to be there gets taken out. Anything that needs to be added that's not in there that should be gets added in, and then making sure that that contract is pretty close to being ready to go for your candidates, so that that helps speed up the process. Because then, once we get to that point where we're negotiating the contract, they're not seeing it for the first time. They've already seen it, have an idea as to what it is, and so you're starting that negotiation from kind of a fresh start, as opposed to them not knowing what's going on.
Okay, thank you. I ask because we ended up hiring an internal candidate last time. The contract was created with our assistant superintendent for human resources and the compensation committee.
Yeah.
And not with the search firm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's a combination of, because it is your district and your superintendent that you're hiring, I tend to lean on the district and the board to kind of work with their legal to come up with a contract that's appropriate for you all. Most of the contracts across the state are looking pretty similar, but there's going to be unique things in your contract that may not be in other districts' contracts. So
Before we get to the far end of the table, Brad does have a follow-up.
So first of all, yes, we do have a communication specialist. So,
fantastic.
So she would be a great resource for you. And I remember, I think we worked with Brad, to help us to look at the contract.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility for sure.
I think we did that when we went through that process 4 years ago. I have one last thing about mentoring support.
Yeah.
So we're interviewing 3 firms, and is there any way, I didn't hear you talk about ongoing support for the superintendent,
Yeah.
but would you be able to connect us? Or
Oh,
would you be able
absolutely,
to-
absolutely. So what I generally recommend to boards is that you lean heavy on your on MASA, right, the Superintendent's Association, and they provide mentors for all new superintendents. Through our area rep program that I have, that the retired superintendents visit, that's another opportunity for mentorship as well. Because of that close working relationship that I have with MASA, I tend not to step on their toes too much when it comes time for mentorship, because that's what they do. They have a staff, they have retired superintendents that work for them that do that mentoring. So I definitely will reach out to them and let them know, hey, Saline just hired a new superintendent. Anything you do to help them out would be great. I definitely have a conversation with your new superintendent about making sure that they lean on their association. And then I have a conversation with all of you to make sure that part of that onboarding process, part of you supporting your new superintendent, is making sure that they have opportunities for professional development, that there's money set aside in the contract for attending conferences and things of that nature, and that you as a board, reach out to MASA and put some things in place to get that support for your superintendent. And anytime you have any questions about that, definitely reach out and we'll make sure that you get the right contact information for sure. Yeah.
Lauren, Jason, in the next minute and a half or so.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
regarding developing sort of the profile of the person we're looking for. It sounds like stakeholders' input is not initially sought, is sought after we sort of do a preliminary advertisement. So,
Well, so, okay, so the preliminary posting is basically just, this is our district, this is the opportunity, and that's that, right? The selection criteria then is created based on the input from community and staff and the board. That's part of the survey, part of the face-to-face meetings. That selection criteria is created, and then that is added to the posting, usually about 2 weeks or so before the posting closes. We always encourage applicants to wait until that selection criteria has been posted and then apply. The reason that we want that preliminary posting up ahead of time is because we want it known, okay, so this is what the timing looks like, so they know when the interviews are and everything. So the sooner we can get that out there, the sooner they can start to plan their schedule, plan their stuff. They can start collecting their letters of reference. They can start brushing up their resume. They can start thinking about what their cover letter is going to look like. And while they're doing all of that, they can then wait for that selection criteria to get posted, and then they can see exactly what it is that the district is looking for, and then they can make adjustments to their materials or decide whether or not this is a good match for them or not.
so what I was going to get to was that it seems like one of the strengths of MASB is that you have a certain amount of like kind of knowledge of the system and the people
Yeah.
involved, but I want to make sure that we don't have too closed of a process and that we're sort of open to a variety of diverse candidates.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm just wondering how you seek stakeholder input a little bit more specifically, and how you make sure that it's wide across our community. Because if we're only talking to leaders of organizations or the people who have
Right.
time off during the day to meet with.
Oh, no, absolutely. So generally speaking, I'm going to first make sure that if there's any groups in particular that you want to make sure that I talk to, that you just let me know what those groups are, and we'll schedule a time and meeting for them. The survey that's out there is wide open to anybody that wants to take it. So we broadcast that far and wide on your social medias, on your email list, on the website, whatever it is. And then we have those meetings at a variety of times during the day. So we have a lunch meeting. Anyone that wants to come, they can make it in on our lunch, great. We'll have an evening meeting. Anyone can come in the evening and meet with us. We'll meet with the teachers right after they get out of school, before they go home. We'll meet with some of the administrators during the day when they can, sneak out of their buildings for a little bit and talk to us. And then I'm also always open to taking phone calls or emails from anybody that wants to reach out to me and just let me know what they're thinking. So there's any number of ways that they can get a hold of me. And you can always, if someone reaches you and says, hey, how do I get a hold of them? Just, send them my way, and I'd be more than happy to talk to them for sure.
And then how do you compile that information, and how is it shared with the board?
So the survey information is an easy compile because that's all in the survey, right? And so when I'm reporting back to you those survey results, I will make sure that, using my notes that I've been taking during all those face-to-face meetings, that I intersperse that conversation with you as well. Generally speaking, what I'm hearing in the face-to-face sessions is the exact same thing that we're hearing in the survey. If there's things that are different from one or the other, then I'll definitely make sure that you hear about those as well. Okay? Yeah, absolutely.
Jason, don't want to leave you out.
Just one quick question.
Yeah.
On one of your slides, you had a part that said that the MASB will not actively recruit superintendents placed for at least 3 years. Is
Yes.
that your placements, or is that any placements?
That's our placements. That's our placements. And, but, logistically speaking, boards for the most part aren't going to look too well upon a candidate that has only been in the job for a year and is already looking to get out. And so usually, if they haven't been in a job for 2 or 3 years, it doesn't do a whole lot of good to recruit them, because, again, a board's going to be like, well, if they were willing to leave that district after a year or two, what's going to happen when they come to ours? And so a lot of times, if we are recruiting candidates, we're recruiting candidates that have established themselves. And quite honestly, I don't need to do a lot of recruiting, because, especially for an opportunity like this, it's a known opportunity, and they're going to start coming to me or to whoever your search firm is. And like I said, I've already seen some of that, and once we get it posted, another reason we try to get that preliminary posting out as quickly as possible, so that it's out there, people know that it's ready to go, they see when those interviews are scheduled for, they see what the timeline looks like, and they start making those arrangements to get their calendars ready to go.
Well, great. I did have one quick question,
Yeah.
but although our visit is almost to an end.
Yeah.
Social media, checking social media footprints used to be a really easy task. Now I suspect it's a heck of a lot onerous. Do you personally go through and review social media footprints, or do we have a service that you employ to, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me
So
about that.
part of my background check process includes a social media check. And so there is a program that the company that we use for background checks, in addition to doing the regular computerized background checks that check all the databases, they also do a education verification. So if they say their highest degree is a PhD from the University of Michigan, then the background company I use calls the University of Michigan, talks to someone in the registrar's office, and makes sure that that person actually has a PhD from the University of Michigan. Employment verification. If they say currently they're the superintendent of the Smithfield School District, then they're going to call someone in the Smithfield School District and confirm that that person is in fact currently the superintendent of the Smithfield School District. And then the third part to that is they have a social media scrub that they do, and I don't know what service or how they do it, but I get a report back that says, hey, we saw these questionable posts on Twitter, we saw these questionable posts on Facebook, and you know, I share that information if it's relevant with the board. For the most part, I'll just tell you, we did the background check, everything came clear. If there's something alarming, then I will let you know what it is, but 9 times out of 10, there's nothing there.
Great. Well, thank you,
Yeah,
Jay.
absolutely.
Appreciate that. It's good to see you again. And I think we'll have to say thank you and goodbye.
Absolutely. Good to see you all. Any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, good luck in your search, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot, Jay.
Have a good night.
Now, oh. Let me just get my toys together. One of the questions I posed to the ad hoc committee, off mic, so to speak, was, should we have a discussion about all these folks tonight, or just have an initial review of our feelings and concerns and so forth? Or, and if we're ready to make an offer to one of these firms, I'm open to doing that now. The only hesitation of doing it on February 11th is that the next board meeting is that time is ticking, of course. If we made a decision tonight, we'd probably, according to their timelines, have a superintendent in place or chosen by about mid-May. So the decision, if we wait till February 11th, then we're looking at like the end of May, so which gives that person about a month to work out details. That said, it's going to be, I heard the word onerous about 6 times from all of these people. It is going to be a bit of a slog, a bit of a marathon, and I'm open to your ideas about the next steps. Fire away, Jennifer, Vice President Steven.
So yeah, Michael's right. And if we take a look at some of the timelines that were provided to us, mid-May I think is best. Beginning of May is best. I personally would like the opportunity for the new individual to work with Steve and with the core team while he's still here. So that doesn't give a lot of time. And I can vividly remember how hard it was to schedule the interviews last time. We had to work with the person that was in Jackie's role before to schedule site visits and have some of us available. We had a lot of stakeholder community groups and various groups with our unions and things like that. And then once we did get down, we had a lot of special meetings, and it was incredibly hard with all of our schedules.
I'm not
so
sure.
I would prefer to kind of get started.
Well, I do as well, but I just wanted to add, I've spoken with Steve about this. He's not going to be sitting on a beach in Tahiti the day after he finishes
I
here.
know, but I want to respect his time.
He
too.
absolutely will work with the new superintendent, whoever they may be.
Yeah.
Should we, I have one question for our finance chair, and then one suggestion as to moving forward. So for Brad, I'd like to know where the money comes from for this, process. And, so that's my first question. And then what I was thinking we could consider doing is having everyone list their top 2, just to see if anybody fell out pretty immediately, and then we could discuss if there was an obvious fallout. But
I appreciate that suggestion, Brad.
Well, she's putting me on the spot, and
think the answer is the general fund.
That's my inclination, is to believe that this is just a general fund expenditure and the general fund would support this. Unfortunately, Miranda has flown, so usually she's the one who can answer me what line items and things of that nature. I also know that we have a dedicated budget, but I don't think. Would it? Even
I think
our
Tim's
budget
right.
can grow and change accordingly?
I think that's where it'd be allocated.
It's where
Yeah.
legal is. It's
We-
where. you know.
But to answer your question, it's general fund dollars.
It's usually encumbered in advance. So I like your suggestion, Lauren. Would you want to just go up and down the table is there one that you would eliminate at this point? That's the easier one. You said, look, what are your top two, but let's just say which one you want to cut out. Let's start with Jason. Yeah, thanks.
Just going based off of presentation and reviewing the materials, I would eliminate Ray and Associates.
Thank you. Lauren?
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with Jason. I just wanted to understand your rationale. That just helps me.
There's a couple things in the presentation, how they referred a little nonchalantly to the diversity, equity, inclusion statement. What that means to us now. That was a little off the cuff. The presentation as put together, the materials were, in my opinion, not well organized. I do a lot of presentations myself. Hard to follow, not very structured, in my opinion. And price point, which isn't always a deciding factor for me, but it was double what anybody else is. They're also not based here in Michigan, whereas the other two are. And I tend to lean more toward firms that are localized. And I know that they have representation that is familiar with the area, but MASB and obviously Michigan Leadership Institute are based here.
Great. Well, I appreciate that, asking for notes on our reasons. So thank you. Lauren, did you have a?
I would eliminate MLI. I thought the presentation was not as comprehensive. I could talk about why I liked the other two firms better a little more easily, but I just didn't think it was as comprehensive of a presentation. I'm hoping I'm not biased by the fact that they were the ones that we didn't have time for questions. I didn't think that they talked very well about background checks. I didn't like the fact that they were sort of random about where they were advertising professional sites throughout Michigan. And I feel pretty strongly, as you can probably tell from my questions, that I really would like us to not be insular in our search. And I feel like that has sometimes harmed at least my experience as a parent in the community and a community member. I'd like to see us look widely, and so for that reason, I felt like they were least able to give us a whole lot of a wider search, and they specifically said they weren't going to give us very many details. They were going to look at things. I just think there was a bigger chance that there was some bias that was going to come into how they were evaluating candidates rather than giving us more information.
Thank you, Jennifer. Vice President Stebbin.
So I'm going to employ a slightly different tactic that I learned the last time we went through the superintendent search, and it was about keeping it positive and public and looking at both mostly positives, right? I guess there's always room for improvement in any proposal to other points made. So I tried to narrow it down to the three top things that I thought that were positives for us to consider of each, and then I wanted to give my opinion overall. So with Ray and Associates, I thought that they had a really good circumstance with the 3 levels of vetting. One of my fears in any hiring situation is that there's something out there that's unknown, and I felt a little comfortable with that, so I like that. I like the bigger geography that they cover, to Lauren's point. And it was the first time, and it did come up later, but I thought it was a respectful discussion around the no poaching. The average tenure right now of a superintendent is 3 to 5 years. That's like nothing when we think about how long Steve has been in this district and how long we had the opportunity to work with Scott. So I thought that was pretty respectful given the climate. MLI, I really liked how they said how John was talking about the site visits that we could go to their districts, and I've seen it happen with MLI when we used them last time and they came here, so I felt very comfortable with that. And I like the idea of us going to neighboring school districts or other school districts where candidates might be coming from that we're seriously considering, and how they work with their teams there. I liked the mentoring on the job, the 1 year, and executive coaching that is provided for fee. And the interview process with them and how he laid it out is very in-depth. It's very in-depth, so I thought that was strong. MASB, they're very familiar to us and they're familiar with us. It is our organization as a school board in our state. And I mean, I liked hearing that superintendents were talking to him at the recent conference. That's a positive, that they feel that there's a trust, and we have built a trust with the organization. I really like that he flat out stated these things need to happen in public. That's important to me, that transparency with the community, and having that for our staff. Going through this the last time, the amount of emails that we received from our staff was huge, and them being able to be a part of the open process is really attractive. I thought Jay seemed like very hungry and ready to go, and with the timelines, I thought that was good. I liked the ideas of the follow-up workshops and the mentorships. So, and thinking of those things, I think with this particular superintendent search, I would be more apt to go with MASB this time. Not at this time.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I would eliminate quite easily, not terribly easily, but Ray and Associates, the price point, based on what they were offering and everything else they said, the price point was still way too high. Plus, they still had add-ons. All of them had the guarantee of the 1 year. All of them had a no poaching. I mean, it makes sense. At a certain point, superintendent searches and executive searches do kind of boil down to a system. I don't think anyone is going to be more outstanding than the other, but I do trust Jay's, first of all, his network through MASB and the people he's spoken with. I actually ran into the entire MASB team at a Michigan Virtual University Summit in Lansing the other day, and we had a chance to chat. They get out and about. When Jay also, Mr. Bennett also said that they would give a price break on the facilitated evaluation, it was Jay and his team who wrote that form that, you know, Jason sadly and Darcy didn't get to see that, but the evaluation form that we worked on, the new one, he and his team developed that. I like the broad reach that they have through Revelus. This has come up many, many times. Like, it came up in previous searches. Are we going to get the candidates we're looking for, a diverse, broad pool? And I get the sense that Revelus and the other tools that he has will get it out there. I'm strongly supporting MLI and MASB. I'd be happy with either, but I'm quite happier with MASB. Darcy.
Thank you. I think I'm probably more in alignment with Lauren's reasoning. I am most comfortable with MASB. I liked the breadth of their reach and their familiarity with process and connection levels. I think what stuck out for me for both MASB and Rain Associates was the community input portion of those, which I think is probably one of the most important things that we need to consider when bringing in a new superintendent. I loved the 31 characteristics assessment and how they disaggregate the data based on the groupings. That was one thing that I didn't hear from MLI, which was that they pull the most common responses. Well, we need to make sure that all groups are represented, and that we're not necessarily eliminating them because they aren't more numerous. I liked MASB's survey that he included in the packet. I thought that was fairly comprehensive, and I can see where we can add to that. I didn't see sort of any information from MLI, what they would be looking for or how they would communicate with the community. So I guess that's where I'm at. If I had to rank, it would be MASB, and then Ray, and then MLI.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Treasurer Gerby.
Before I get going, yeah, there were a couple of things that I will say. First of all, I concur entirely with your guys' feelings about MLI, and I concur entirely with Jason as far as what you said about Ray and Associates. So, thank you for that. You've done my work for me. Now, I will say one thing that I found a strength about Ray is that second-year guarantee of the majority of your board and you had a separation. I do think there's value potentially in that because these searches are expensive, and I would not want to be doing one within the next 2 years, and two, I certainly wouldn't want to have an annual expenditure of $10,000, $12,000 or even $18,000, $22,000 on a every other year basis. So I will tell you, I found that to be a pretty strong, the strength. And the MLI thing, I really liked the idea of the mentoring, and I think that Mr. Silveri, who spoke to us tonight, would do a solid job of mentoring. So I did like those pieces. That being said, if you asked me to choose a firm tonight, I would give my strong preference for MASB. The biggest reason, quite frankly, I'll call my shot, is Jay Bennett. I really think they're prioritizing us, right? That is the vice president, isn't that, of searches. I think he has an ear to candidate pools. I think he has the ability to have those conversations, and he's who they go to, kind of, right, to do this kind of work. And so I connected with him. I liked his presentation, and I'll be honest with you, I just think it's a good opportunity to have him leading our search as well. So I'm strongly in favor of MASB at this point.
Thank you, Brad. Tim?
So I took a lot of notes throughout the interviews, and a lot of things have already been said here that I agree with a lot. I would probably pull out Ray and Associates. That would be the one I'd pull out. And I tend to, from what I'm hearing here as well, I think MASB probably has the broader reach, and if that is a concern of, this board, then I think that would be the better choice of the two at that point.
I'd like to just take a minute because I sort of followed the structure that I thought we were doing, which is to only say, I think Jason and I, so.
You did, you followed the rules.
The whole purpose, I thought, was to then debate too and not come up with, so I would just like to, I don't think it's going to make a difference because, I see that the Ray and Associates dropped out of several, and that's, I stand by that. I would say that MASB would be my second choice. But I really, really liked that both of those places surveyed, gave an opportunity for the entire community to speak. And what I will say about MASB, again, seeing that there is a consensus among other members of the board, I really, probably my first choice would have been Ray because I liked the vetting that they did. I thought they were really specific about how they vetted people in a very 21st century fashion. I thought the fact that there were two people on a team working with two very different types of experience was very useful. I thought that the fact that they were not necessarily in a network actually may have, to disagree respectfully a little bit with Trustee Gerby. I do think that the MASB person's best strength, which is that everybody knows him and he knows everybody, is also his biggest potential weakness. And I just want to caution this board about that because it can narrow your search very quickly. So I really liked that Ray and Associates said that they were going to speak with every board member individually versus just speaking with and dealing with the board president or a couple of members of a subcommittee, because I think if you speak to each one of us individually, you're going to get a more honest and specific, and we all represent different portions of the community, you know, whatever. So we all have different viewpoints, and that's hopefully what makes us strong and best able to represent the community. So I'm not necessarily asking for any change, but I just wanted the opportunity to explain why I liked Ray and Associates. And I'm hoping maybe at least a couple of those things we can sort of take forward in our dealings. It sounds like we have a reasonable consensus for MASB. I'm hoping maybe we can take those preferences forward.
I appreciate that, Lauren. I have a note that on my notes here that if we do go with anyone other than Ray, that we insist that we have board interviews, either individually or in small clusters. But for time, sometimes we may have to do it that way. But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Darcy?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize, I really did think that Ray and Associates came with the intense appreciation for finding the best fit, in that they are looking at a large number of factors of what it would take to bring in that fit, and I felt like it was glossed over.
It's very interesting about that, because I actually made notes about the fit that MLI was bringing up. They seem to be spending a lot of energy on making sure that the candidates would fit with this district.
I felt like the Ray and Associates explained how they were going to do that,
Probably
rather than
explained it
just
more,
saying,
yeah.
that's a goal. They told us how they were going to do it, what it involved,
Right.
and again, just involving the community. It's a community. We're an interesting district in Washtenaw in medium.
I'd like, if I may, I'd like to hear Jason, like, you follow the rules too.
I just do what the
It
president
did say
tells me
it
to
was
do.
a discussion item,
Yeah,
Brad.
well, right, no, and I just
I'm
learned
just
a lot
poking at
from
you.
what Lauren said, so I also would like to hear.
The points that Lauren and Darcy have brought up regarding Ray are extremely valid, and I think it is important to open up to a lot more in the community and get a lot more transparency in that process. I agree with that. And then something you said, Brad, too, the 2-year guarantee thing is an interesting point. You know, we're going to go through this process. We're going to have a superintendent, and 18 months later, we're going to go through another election. What if the board turns over? What if people don't like the superintendent for whatever reason? So that's an interesting perspective there too. If we're going to break the rules and say who our top choice is, I would go with MASP. A number of things. And I also agree that Jay's strongest and weakest point is the network. It can get tunnel vision. I know what that looks like. But at the same time, knowing everybody in Michigan and having the benefit of reaching every state in our Midwest, as well as Florida, North Carolina, all the ones that he mentioned, Kansas, Nebraska, I'm trying to remember all of them, Alaska, that would be interesting. But, you know, that's still a national reach, and I think that still, brings it in. And then one final thing about Ray and Associates, and I thought it was a great question that Lauren asked, was how many candidates come from outside the state? And they didn't know that right away. And not knowing it, I expected them to shoot low, and they shot at 80%. That is a huge number coming out of state. And if that is the case, and we have 5 candidates, by the law of large numbers, we can look at 4 people coming from out of state for which we're footing the bill now. So now we've gone from an $18,000 bill with extras to now into the $35,000 range. And I think that has to be a consideration, not that we don't want to look for anybody, but Jay also pointed out, and MLI also pointed out, that this could be a destination district, and anybody that is looking to move to Michigan is already actively looking. So we don't necessarily, my perspective has always been you have to want it to deserve it. So if they want this position, they're already looking here. We don't have to necessarily advertise. So looking at it from that perspective, if they want to come from Alaska to interview for this job because they want to be in Saline, I think they're going to find us.
I can absolutely concur with that. I know that there are search notifications that pop up all the time. I was in a job search a while back. I would get notifications from all over, carefully tailored to my background and my interests. And you know that if they were interested in Southern Michigan, you're quite right. They've already been notified there's a potential opening. So even before it's posted. Lauren?
Was Jay himself, maybe everybody else knows his background a little better than I do. Just everybody else sort of said what, like, was he a superintendent at some point, or?
I'm not sure.
I was trying to look for his resume, and I don't really, I mean, even on, I'm just not sure. I don't know if that's important or not, but.
Go ahead. I'm not 100% sure that he was a superintendent. He did start as a board member and was a teacher for years and years and knows districts very well. Yeah.
I wanted to hear teacher or principal or.
Well, and can I ask, because the amount of money for Rain Associates was very high and very concerning to me, but they indicated a willingness to bring that price point down. How would that process work if we were interested in going with them?
With Ray?
Yeah. I mean, they expressed a willingness to bargain.
But because in recognition of the fact that they know their prices are high, yeah, and I don't know the answer to that question.
Before we get into that, I would say this. I'd be willing, if we're going to keep Ray in the pool, to do that. But I mean, I think if I heard us, like, MASB was at least in the top 2 of all of ours, and Ray was eliminated by a bunch of us, right? So I'm not sure that I'd want to invest that time and then wait and start our search later to get a response from them. That's just my personal feeling or opinion. It's valid, and I wish they were cheaper because it would make them easier to consider. But for me, like, that would be a restraint of that.
I have a question regarding that specifically, and Darcy brings up an interesting point. The cost proposals were included in the RFP response. So a question that I would pose, if anybody wants to answer it, would be if the costs were closed, which happens in a lot of RFP processes, would that have swayed any decision on Ray? Because I think that's an important question to ask. Without knowing that Ray was twice as much, just sitting through the presentation. Now, mind you, I don't think the presentation was very good, but Darcy and Lauren have brought up very solid points regarding Ray and Associates. That being said, if I didn't have twice the price tag in my head reviewing the materials, I may have a slightly different opinion. And what's that? Well, it's a little difficult. Now, like I said, the presentation I didn't think flowed as well. The materials that I read prior to the meeting, I liked what I saw. The presentation didn't come off as good. And I think, the best presentation was from Jay. And when you're trying to place a position like this, you need your advocate to be a salesperson. I didn't get that from Ray and Associates. I got it a little bit more from MLI. I definitely got it from MASB. And looking at it from that perspective, the person advocating for us for this role was someone that can sell Saline. Not that I think it needs to be sold, but that was a big thing for me. But without those prices being there, I would have had a different idea just looking at the materials prior to the presentation.
I appreciate that, Jake. I don't know if we need to keep hammering away on our pluses and minuses, although I did take delight to know that MASB would be interested in hearing our ideas. Hey, we really want you to look at this superintendent. People have approached me already saying, hey, I really hope this so-and-so down in this district, I hope you've reached out to that person. And it sounds like Jay is wide open. She says, yeah, I'll call him up. And so, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Lauren, I really liked your idea about whomever we select, that we can incorporate different facets of the proposals, because I think there were several really glowing things about each of them, and kind of put it together. They weren't out of the realm of possibility on some of the asks, I think.
Thank you. I was trying to land the plane, but I think I did a go-around. So I'm going to open the floor if anyone would like to make any motion at this point.
I would like to make a recommended motion to approve MASB as our superintendent search partner.
I'll support Tizides.
Tizides supports. Sorry, Brad, you snoozed. Are there any further discussions about this? Well, hearing none, then should we put it to a vote? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, well, thank you. I will, I have drafted 2 letters. I will send them out to the appropriate people this evening, and I'll CC the board, or BCC the board. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Well, I'll give my hearty congratulations to Jay, and it was actually a treat to meet the other folks as well. So I've lost my agenda. There we go. Thank you. Get Steve back. Carol, you want to get Steve? Oh, you don't have a pass, do you, to get into the back office? I'm just teasing. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here.
I did have a question, though, even though I'm not supposed to ask questions.
Well, you know what? We're kind of between things right now. Fire away.
Well, sometimes people don't want it to be known that they're looking for another job. How does that work?
That's a very good question, and you know, you're a valued member of the community, and it's going to come up. Smiles. The first thing they said was MASB assigns random numbers to the candidates, so we can have open discussions about candidate number 1, candidate number 10, and then once we've decided to interview them, then we'll open up the names to the community. So you're quite right. You've got to be very cautious when you're bringing in. You don't want to let your own home district know you're looking for a job elsewhere. I get that, and they get that too. That's why it's a very delicate process. Thank you very much for asking that question. Well, let's keep on rolling. I guess I'm next on the agenda. Thank you so much for promptly asking about committee assignments. I'm going to go through them really fast, really quickly. Finance this year, thank you very much. Treasurer Gerby is going to chair that, followed by Tim and Jason Tizides on the Finance Committee. Please reach out to those folks to schedule the meetings. Policy, once again, like last year, there were 5 people who wanted the job, and we had some interesting discussions. Chair Lauren is stepping up as chair this year for the policy. Woohoo! Can we have a woohoo? Yes. Darcy Berwick will join that committee, and I'm going to be sitting in on that one as well. Evaluation Compensation Committee, an extraordinarily important job, especially when we start drafting a contract. Brad, Jennifer, and Jason, thank you very much for stepping up there. Grievance, we only meet once every 5 years, but Brad, myself, and Jennifer Stebbin. Citizens for Equality Community, Darcy Berwick has stepped up. Have you already attended a meeting? No, not yet. February. Tim, thank you very much once again for Chamber of Commerce, monthly morning meetings. Sometimes they have coffee, sometimes they don't. I don't know. Foundation for Saline Area Schools, once again, Jennifer Stebbin will step up on 7:30 in the morning on Tuesday mornings. Makes for a long day for you, and long day for anyone else who attends her. I'm going to carry on in board associations. One note, the Washington Association of School Boards is looking for a new leadership slate, and we've asked Darcy Berwick to serve on that committee. I have been relieved of my duties as Legislative Relations Chair because the past president rolled off his board. He retired, Tom Rollins in Lincoln. So now I'm back to being past president. So I'm still on the board. I'm still doing stuff, but the board is changing all the time. The Sex Ed Advisory Board, Lauren Gold has offered to step forward. DEI Advisory Committee, Lauren also, I'm getting a little nervous about overtaxing you, Lauren. Well, let's overtax you then, all right. And I'm gonna pop in,
No, I was just saying, I think I had said that if somebody else wanted to do something like wellness, that I could do that, so I don't know.
all right, well, we'll put wellness as a question mark. Wellness is a question mark, is the next committee. At this point, they don't meet that frequently. Not very often. Darcy has, how many? 3 times a year. Well, Darcy's volunteered to step, Darcy Burrick. I'm really cautious when people say they don't meet often and then COVID-2 comes by, you know. Okay, I'm just saying, yeah, I was just told never to ever say that. Okay, thank you. And finally, there is a new committee that we are working on developing with the mayor and L. Cole, the interim city manager, Steve Latch and myself, City of Saline liaison. We're not sure how that's going to work. We're still in the early stages of that. So since I've been at initial meetings with those folks, thought we'd just carry through. CARES, during one of our board meetings with Brian Puffer here, we said we should have a rep on that committee. Thank you, Darcy, for stepping up. Now, the last thing I want to say is that no, Jennifer Stebbin is not on either of the 2 standing committees. However, I've asked her to please step up to be the liaison with, I guess, Jay Bennett now and MASB. There's a lot of work that has to go on behind the scenes, coordinating, scheduling, helping to drafting the contract. And if anyone followed Vice President Stebbins' candidacy for school board, they'll know that she often spoke about how she went through all the process of finding the last superintendent. So you well are familiar with the process. And so you're going to work with that, and we'll lean on you for coordinating those things going forward. So thank you all for your service to the board on that. We're open for public comment. I see we've already had one. Sorry, I've lost track of my. Well, I think we have a administration, then board updates, followed by the consent agenda. Thank you, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you. I have one important board update, actually, and it relates to some of the news we've been seeing about immigration and some of these other areas of really supporting our students. So fostering a safe, inclusive, and supportive educational experience for students continues to be at the heart of what we do in Saline area schools. We're closely following the rapidly changing national messaging related to immigration enforcement, and we are working closely with our Director of Safety and Security, Dan Carrick, and district legal teams to ensure that we are taking appropriate steps to protect student privacy. Saline Area Schools doesn't collect immigration or citizenship status upon enrollment. We are working to equip our principals, front office staff, social workers, counselors, SEL coaches, and so forth with protocols and resources in case they are needed. Additionally, the executive order regarding gender ideology doesn't require any immediate or specific action by local school districts at this time. Saline Area Schools, in consultation with legal guidance, continues to uphold and follow our transgender and gender nonconforming student policy in support of our students. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Go down, up and down the table, starting with the students.
I just wanted to mention an upcoming event for February, which will be the Polar Plunge with the Connecting Club. It is February 19th during Hornet Time at the high school, and anyone can join and fundraise, and then they can choose if they want to jump. And it's super fun, and we fundraise for the Special Olympics. So if you're thinking about joining, you should. And I'm jumping with my friends this year, so yes.
But what was the date again?
February 19th.
Can I just triple check that? Am I jumping this year?
Say if you can't do it, that they need to change the...
No. I'm going to cancel my class. No, I'll be there. I'm announcing now I will once again jump into the bucket of cold water And Tommy, you're going to join us too? All right. I don't know. I'm not going to make any guarantees that I'll wear a tutu or anything like that. And so Brad, you're going to be teaching, and other people have other day jobs, but I was able to get that morning free. It was such a fun experience last year. Thanks for stepping up and jumping in, Kate. Appreciate that. And I'm going to set up a team on the Polar Plunge link so you can all fund me. All right. Great. Tim?
So just want to give a shout out to the Clark Construction and the work they're doing at the STEAM Center and the weight room over there at the high school. We toured that this earlier before this meeting, and making great progress. Looks great, and really excited for our robotics team and so forth that have been kind of stuck in a closet for years. Now they actually will have some space to actually to work. Also want to give a shout out to looking at the HR report and seeing that Nate Lampman is retiring. He has been here for so many years, touched so many lives and people, and he's such a great music teacher, and I know we have other ones that will follow behind him, but he has made an impact on a lot of people's lives.
Thank you. Brad?
Good stuff. And we literally saw the closet that they work out of today. So, all right. So a couple of things, I guess. I want to thank all the visitors who came to see us today. Leanne said something that I think resonates with, and as a teacher I relate to, the idea that she's surrounded by a staff and surrounded by individuals who inspire her, let her take risks, do all of those kinds of things. That's good. Then she's great. And I'm so glad that she chooses to work for Saline. Like, how great is that for our people, for her fellow staff mates, all of it. So thank you. Thank you to the Miss Saline individuals. And, leadership sure is a strength for our teachers, our staff, our students, all of it. So I'm excited for that. I want to thank Betty, and I want to thank and Steve and anybody else who was associated with this really generous. This is an awesome appreciation gift that I'm receiving this year, and I'm really really excited about it. What an awesome visit of the high school. You don't have a true feel for how big and massive and it is until you're standing in it and you're like, dude, this is going to be a kick butt weight room. It's just, you look at it and you think then you go over and you look at this is where the competition, field is actually going to be. And there's going to be a garage door right there. And there's going to be prep there. And then I'm in Superintendent Lodge's ear during the visit, well, hey, maybe we could host, big time events. And so this is going to be a really cool thing for our families to really experience. And maybe it could be a generator of revenue. It could be a generator of some opportunities for us. It could be a generator of just staying first class, and now students come here and see this, wow, Saline is a destination place. And when I'm choosing somewhere, if I gotta move or if I gotta, that's Saline, that was a pretty sweet place with that competition place. So anyway, I just think it's a really cool opportunity. So, and then the last thing, I was told that if I didn't say, my children would be very disappointed. They love Snow Day Steve for this past week. An almost unprecedented double cold/snow/ice day. I'm so glad that you were able to keep that promise. They want me to remind you that in November you were all for that. And they just wanted you to know that any future charity is also greatly appreciated. But oh, I did hear about that. He hit a half-court shot. You're right. So anyway, but thank you. So Steve, on behalf of the Gerby kids, and I think I can say all students and staff and everybody, thank you for a double ice day. Cold day, ice day, all of it.
Secretary Burbick.
I will echo what Tim and Brad have said. Thank you very much. The tour of the STEAM edition of the high school today was very exciting. Can't wait for that to be done. I know that the robotics teams are very much looking forward to their new spaces as well as Science Olympiad. I did want to say thank you to Lizzie and Madeline and Kim coming from Miss Saline. There is a lot of work that goes into that, and they do a lot of community work. And as Lizzie said, you know, it's not just a pageant. There is a lot to that application process and a lot of skills that applicants develop along the way. And that will happen again at Summerfest, but that application is live on the website now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take the anchor leg.
With the risk of sounding repetitive, I also really enjoyed the tour today. Thank you most of all to the voters who made that possible for our students and for our staff to thrive. I was just chatting with Kara really briefly before I came in here, and that high school is such a heart of this community. I am up there very frequently, and every night it's bustling with, you know, any type of club, sport. I see staff up there all the time. It's truly a wonderful, positive center of our community. And to see it grow in this way is a real treat, especially for having 2 kids in that building. So thank you.
I would echo the kudos for the tour, and thank you for my new Saline hat. And I love the bookstore, so I'm excited to have an excuse to go in. I wanted to honor Martin Luther King Jr. And the recently observed holiday. And I just thought I would close brief comments with a quote about education from MLK Jr., which is intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. So thank you for the families, teachers, and students who are working every day to learn in all ways and, you know, embody that here in Saline.
Well, if I don't say something about the tour, I'll be the one that doesn't. So that was a great tour. But I knew everybody was going to say that. A couple things. I mentioned it last meeting with the coach that had been coaching the robotics team for 10 years. Doesn't have kids in the school district right now, but participates. Same goes for Leanne. We have these people that just give so much of their lives to the district. We need to bottle that somehow. We need to figure out a way to replicate that. That'd be fantastic. And then for School Board Appreciation Month, I would like to thank Lauren for being a fantastic pediatrician and serving with her abilities here on the board. Jen for going back 3 years and talking to me after I stood for board the first time and talked me through some stuff and taught me about the board a little bit. Michael for the great words that you gave me after the first meeting. I really appreciate that. It meant a lot to me. Darcy for spending all of Saturday before last with me at the MASB training. I appreciate that. Brad, when I was running, for coming up to me and telling me thank you for running and that it takes a lot of courage and you're 100% right. And Tim for encouraging me to run. The jury is still out on that one. But I do appreciate, I appreciate everybody on the board. We all know I'm only 2 meetings into it, but I know how much the board has to sacrifice to do this. So I appreciate all of you guys. So thank you very much.
Jason, that was the sweetest thing. Thank you.
Don't get used to it.
Yeah, don't worry. I just wanted to, well, I'm going to say something nice to the whole board. I'm going to be the guy who doesn't talk about the tour, because although it was awesome. I just want to say thank you to this board this evening. During our discussion over MASB, Ray, and MLI, it was a considered conversation. It was calm. It was respectful. It was thoughtful. We all shared our opinions. And although we may have messed up, you know, you were on the right track for setting up a process. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. But we got there, and I appreciated the way we did it. So thank you ever so much, because we're going to, you know, it won't always be such smooth sailing. And, you know, I appreciate all of your efforts. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed. Is that Mr. Tim Austin?
Support Tizities.
Thank you, JT and TA. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Oppose? No opposition? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Items on the next agenda, sir.
Our main scheduled report is going to come from Dr. Rowe. It's going to be a CTE update regarding countywide efforts to increase access and opportunity in CTE programs.
Thank you very much. And please look for your Thursday board notes. We're looking at a retreat this June or July, and I've given us a wide selection of dates for you to shoot down. Thank you. No public comment. The next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on February 11th at 6:30. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:36.
So move, Stebbin.
Stebbin. Tim Austin says yes. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you on February 11th, if not sooner. I appreciated that statement.